Yes, live on Facebook. I'm just talking to myself for everyone that's on. Here's how you do Zoom webinars, everyone. All right, Joe, if you want to take us away and get us going here.
Yeah, I see people are still popping in here, so we're just gonna wait just one moment until
Oh yeah,
those
probably.
numbers are popping in. So we'll give it just another moment here as we welcome everybody to our final day here at National Entrepreneurship Week. It has been a super exciting week. All righty. Hello, everyone. My name is Joe Kapp, and I am co-chair of National Entrepreneurship Week. National Entrepreneurship Week is a congressionally chartered annual event which supports and uplifts America's new businesses and entrepreneurs. Originally founded in 2006, National Entrepreneurship Week takes place every year during the third week of February. In 2016, Amber and I relaunched National Entrepreneurship Week, and now all across the United States, from Maui to Miami to Minnesota to Maine and everywhere in between, America's entrepreneurial ecosystem is vibrant and thriving. We have a super exciting lineup today with a whole host of folks from the SBA, and so we are going to dive into that here shortly. But before we do that, I want to go ahead and throw it over to my effervescent and wonderful co-chair, Amber Ravenscraft. Hi, Amber.
Hi, Joe. Yeah, I'm excited. It's been a great week, and we're excited to wrap things up here today with just a wonderful program in partnership with the Small Business Administration. So before I throw it over to Jack Bianco to introduce us to what the day is going to entail, just a few quick housekeeping reminders. If you would like to introduce yourself and have some general conversation, please use the chat function. But otherwise, if you do have any questions for our presenters, please be sure to use Q&A. That allows us to go ahead and make sure that we are keeping track of those questions and are able to get to them. So with that in mind, I'm going to throw it over to you, to Jack, to tell us kind of what's going to happen, and I'll get our first segment teed up.
Thanks, Amber. Jack Bianco from the U.S. Small Business Administration. First, happy National Entrepreneurship Week to everybody that's dialed in. I know it's a Friday. It's a tail end of an active week. Thank you to Joe and Amber. So for folks that don't know, they and a number of presenters, federal colleagues, and others have been participating throughout the week to offer really great hands-on sessions, both presentation style, answering folks' questions. And as I know, Joe and Amber, from a couple of years worth of work here, they do a great job of following up. So right now, if you've got some friends that may not be aware of the upcoming session, send them the link. They have time to dial in right away, or maybe when their day frees up in an hour or so. So go ahead and share that. They can have free access to what we're going to talk about this afternoon. But again, Joe and Amber and the other team members, thank you for everything you do for National Entrepreneurship Week. As Joe mentioned, congressionally recognized, but volunteer driven. All right. So much like the world of entrepreneurship, folks rolling up their sleeves, bootstrapping and getting things together to share and grow this cause. SBA obviously is a big backer of entrepreneurship and small business ownership. The United States has realized a record surge in startups over the last couple of years. So it's critically important that we collectively support startups and existing business owners with everything from finance to contracting opportunities, access to new customers, some regulatory relief, and other resources that they need out there, whether they're working at a national or global scale, or they're on your main street, so to speak, servicing our dry cleaners, our delis, and our other micro businesses out there. So proud to be part of National Entrepreneurship Week. What the SBA and most importantly for today are what we call resource partners. These are valued, trusted partners that the SBA has aligned with for decades to make sure that entrepreneurs and small business owners have access to experienced business mentors and coaches through a number of organizations. We wanted to do a couple things. What you're going to see probably first to kick off the day, we got a couple of our executives that lead major channels at the SBA. Our entrepreneurial development arm, which are reflective of all the partners that I'll talk about in a minute, and our government contracting and business development arm. We're not going to make people students of acronyms today, but we've got these major channels that support entrepreneurs, which hover around 30 to 40 million in the United States right now, to get them what they need. So we pulled together Mark Madrid, head of our entrepreneurial development arm, and Jackie Burnette Robinson, who heads up our government contracting arm. They're having a fireside chat. We pulled them together in a TV studio and pre-taped a little session to accommodate their schedules to talk about those two major areas, what people do to support entrepreneurs generally with mentoring. And most importantly for this talk is a talk about how the US government happens to be the biggest client, if you will, on planet Earth. So the US government and all we do in our nation supporting space travel, exploration, down to serving meals at Veterans Administration hospitals and everything in between, right? Our roads and bridges and other work that we do, make sure that small businesses have access to those contracting opportunities. It's something that's been critical to our economy over the number of decades. As I talk to global leaders in other countries, not all countries have or enforce or even promote sometimes their micro businesses or small businesses being a government or public or national contractor. Really proud of what the United States does. Sometimes this topic, though, can be very intimidating to small businesses or entrepreneurs. Where do I get started? Am I eligible? Do I have the resources to support a client as big as the United States government or one of the agencies? So Mark and Jackie are really going to sort of break it down, make it approachable. It is approachable. It's tough work, but it's an excellent opportunity. But they're going to talk a little bit about how one pursues these avenues, what the SBA and our coalition of agencies do to make sure you know what is the government, what is an agency buying next year, forecasting, how do you pursue some of these opportunities, and if there are technical requirements, where do you get that coaching? Where does somebody sit down with you and talk about what those requirements are so you can bid, compete, and hopefully help the public sector here do the great work we do, protecting seniors, helping our veterans, the roads and bridges, the school systems, everybody that really small business powers. We underestimate that at times, but I don't think this community does. I think our audience knows small business is the backbone of the U.S. economy and everything we do out there. So Mark and Jackie are going to have a great conversation. We're going to jump right into one of our valued partners who's been with us for about 61, 62 years, 60 years. SCORE, formerly known as the Service Corps Retired Executives. They simply go by SCORE right now. This is approximately 10,000 mentors, men and women that have often started a business, may have sort of been sort of sold off the business, might be an active business owner, but they're spread across the United States. And they, through the generosity of their time, effort, and their heart and passion for small business, coach small businesses, right? They sit down with you at a SCORE office, an SBA office, or maybe a coffee shop. Talk about what are your interests. If you haven't started a business, do you know what you're going to get yourself into, how to organize, write that business plan, pursue a loan? Or if you're currently in business and you have a pain point, will they or one of their colleagues who might have an expertise in accounting, exporting, or a ton of topics, sit down with you and really get you then up to speed on one of those areas. So the SCORE team has invited one of their valued clients. They're going to talk about how did the client find them? How did they sign up for that first introductory session? How do they do an assessment of what the entrepreneur may have needed? And then how do they build a relationship that sort of was give and take, providing a lot of advice, keeping the entrepreneurial client engaged, and sort of reaching some milestones, how they can either get their business right-sized or expanded. So these are critical conversations. Really looking forward to that. We're going to take a brief break during noon. And I think Joe and Amber, we're going to loosely call this a coffee chat. I've asked some of my additional colleagues at the SBA that work with some of these partners that you're going to hear for the remaining of the afternoon, talk about their national networks, again, regardless of where you're at, or if you want to engage virtually, how people sign up for these type of mentoring systems, and maybe some other highlights before we pivot back into mentor and client sessions, where we've got somebody from our Small Business Development Center network, our export assistance network out there called STEP Grants. These are state government-run partnerships that help you with exporting issues. And then our Veteran Business Opportunity Centers. We've got dedicated centers that help the military and veteran community pursue entrepreneurship. So we're going to cycle through these conversations, and they're really going to be practical. What we've asked people are, no need right now to tell us about the history of the organization, the legislation behind it, or any of that stuff. If you're interested, or if you're one of our economic developers on board, or you're dialing in from another country, you can read that online and we'll provide that to you. But we really wanted them to talk about did I hear about these organizations for a while, maybe on social media or in the media? I clicked a button or I scheduled an appointment, and then what did it look like from there? I think it's pretty appropriate with Valentine's Day very recently, and so many people reflecting on how do those important relationships build in the business community. A little bit different, but how do these important relationships of mentor and client build? Because it's very intimate, I would consider, when you're sharing a baby you birthed, a small business, or something so critically important to your family, your household, and your community, and really open yourself up to sometimes some feedback from a stranger who often becomes a friend to help you sort of succeed. So that's going to be the sort of gamut of the day. I know we're going to allow for a little bit of question and answer, but we're really going to focus on the conversations that are held throughout the day. But that's sort of the layout. Again, thank you all. If folks are not dialed in live, I think we're going to air some broadcasts of these at a later date. So they will be archived, which is great. Schedules are critical. And again, happy National Entrepreneurship Week to everybody. And again, Joe and Amber, thank you for all you all do with arranging things, hosting our colleagues from the federal government for federal office hours over the past 2 days. I know it was an exciting time, and my federal colleagues appreciate all your work as well.
Jack, thank you so much. We're going to launch into this video. I do want to say for all those people who are listening and new entrepreneurs, the first place to start on your journey to building a business is at the SBA. There's so many resources. We get that question all the time. And the Small Business Administration is unique. I have the opportunity to teach entrepreneurship all around the world. And it is probably one of the most unique agencies in any government, the ability to help support, start, and grow businesses. Amber, let's play the video.
All right.
Great day to our U.S. small business owners. Happy National Entrepreneurship Week. I'm Mark Madrid, Associate Administrator for the United States Small Business Administration, Office of Entrepreneurial Development. And today we're talking government contracting. Did you know that the federal government is the #1 purchaser in the world? And I can't think of somebody who knows more about this than our special guest today. We have Jackie Robinson-Burnette, our Associate Administrator for the United States Small Business Administration, Government Contracting and Business Development. And let me tell you a little bit about Jackie. She serves as our Associate Administrator of the Office of Government Contracting and Business Development, GCBD. We love our acronyms here.
Yes, we do.
This position oversees all functions within GCBD and works to enhance small business programs through partnerships with other SBA programs, federal agencies, private sector industries, and the small business community to improve the development of policies, regulations, and statutory changes. Jackie has an extensive background, in small business development in both the public and private sectors. From 2014 to 2017, Jackie served as the Deputy Associate Administrator for the Office of Government Contracting and Business Development here at SBA. She also served as the Associate Administrator for the SBA's 8A Business Development Program, and all told, over 30 years of experience in government contracting, and not only a great mind, but a great heart for our small business owners. Welcome, Jackie.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, let's get started. Jackie, after retiring and after 30 years of federal service, you recently, thank you, accepted this position to come back as the Associate Administrator of Government Contracting and Business Development, a presidential appointment. How did you make the decision to return to federal service?
It was an easy decision, Mark. I thought about the 16 million new business starts since President Biden took office, and his 15% goal for small disadvantaged businesses in government contracting. And those together really inspired me to get off my couch in Florida and come back to Washington, D.C. to be a part of it. Like, this is the best time, I think, in history for small businesses, and I wanted to be a part of the success. And I'm excited to be back. And I do want to tell you that 30 years in government contracting and small business, I'm only 35 years old. Don't do the math, stay out of my business, but I'm happy to be back and serving.
We are super thrilled that you're back. Myself, as a fellow presidential appointee, but I can tell the respect that you have amongst our career professionals, and that's saying something.
Yes.
What is the value of considering government contracting, and this is important, as a revenue generating source? Our administrator of the SBA, Isabel Casillas Guzman, says that all the time. We need to consider revenue opportunities for our small businesses.
Yes, thank you. And our administrator, I applaud her. And this is the first time I have seen an administrator so focused on government contracting. And she is very focused. Over $240 billion go to small and large companies every year in government contracting. Those are prime contract dollars and subcontract dollars. And as you said, we are the largest buyer on the globe. We are the largest buyer. And so why not have the federal government as a client? And what's also wonderful is we have special programs that help small businesses engage and get access to government contracts. Over 23% of all the spend goes to small businesses. And then we have other social economic categories where we set aside specifically for veterans, for women, for companies in hub zones, for 8A companies, those small disadvantaged businesses. So we have so many programs that open the door for these firms. And also there's training. I know we always talk about the whole of SBA approach, and we have training wrapped around providing loans, providing access to capital, training, and government contracts. We want to help these firms be successful. And there's no other client that provides everything soups to nuts, from a pen all the way to the paper that we write we print our dollars on, including aerospace, dynamics, IT. The government buys almost everything.
I love that point. The government buys almost everything. And to that point, you all might be wondering, is government contracting hard to get into? And where should an entrepreneur start?
This is my favorite question. A lot of people say that it's hard. And as a result, there are a lot of consultants that are, especially all around Washington, D.C., that will help you get started. But we have made it easy where you can do it yourself. And you start with SAM.gov, the System for Award Management, registering your business to do business with the government, including your business name, your tax ID. It walks you through this process very easily. You don't have to pay anyone. We made it so easy that you can get your certification to do business with the government in just one day, uploading your information into sam.gov. Now, of course, after that, you can get additional certifications, but you just start by registering to do business. And one of the things that is very beneficial is the SBA, a lot of your programs, and also DoD has a program it's called Apex Accelerators, and it used to be the Procurement Technical Assistance Centers, and they're all across the country, and they're funded specifically to help small companies get access to government contracts and state and local contracts. But the courses, you can take courses online, you can take courses in person, and those courses are at no cost, and if there is a cost, they're typically $15 to $30. So we've really made it easy for firms to learn how to do government contracting.
I love it. sam.gov, sam.gov. One day, you said, could be the possibility to get registered?
Yes.
Okay.
You can register in one day.
Now, you talked about, Jackie, something very important to the Administrator Guzman, the whole of SBA approach. And that's why we're here together, two of the largest units of the SBA working hand in hand. And so how are you integrating the whole of SBA approach into your operations?
Great question, Mark. We're looking at not just offering firms opportunities to access federal contracts, but how do we help them grow and build infrastructure? And this is where we've accessed and connected with your team. And for the first time, GCBD, Government Contracting Business Development, is working with your entrepreneurial development team to really help build the infrastructure of these companies. And we looked at the different training opportunities that we offer, and they really didn't compare to what you offer and what you offer through Thrive and some of the other programs. And your team has mastered this ability to execute training across the country. And we really want to start introducing those firms. In addition, we've made it simple for firms to access capital. So many times a small company doesn't have 1 or 2 years tax returns or the history to go into a bank and just get a loan, because the bank wants to know, what have you done in the last 2 years? And our SBA lending and having a government contract in your hand opens the doors for those firms to get working capital to pay their employees. You know, the government, often you start work, if you have a service contract, you do the work for 30 days, then you submit an invoice. And then after you submit that invoice, it takes 15 to 30 days to get paid. And that's where access to capital is very important, because you want to pay your employees every 2 weeks. You may have startup costs. And so we're making it simple for these firms to get access to the contracts, the loans and the financing, the access to capital that they need, and then the training to help them grow and scale.
I love that. So often at the SBA, we talk about the 3 C's: counseling, contracts, and capital. And depending on who you are, you can go in different orders here. Please share the latest on SBA certifications, because I'm sure you all hear different things out there
Yes.
in the atmosphere. Please share the latest on SBA certifications, and is there a value in having multiple certifications?
Yes, there is a value to having multiple certifications. We just celebrated having Vet Cert for 1 full year, and it was a tremendous success. That program is run by John Perkins. He's doing a great job. We have a fabulous team. I think it has been probably the most successful transition of a program in the federal government, but we've had success with that. Our administrator wants to continue to build on customer service and the customer experience for our certification programs. And one of the things she's talking to us about is, why should a firm have to submit an application into 4 different portals? What if they're a woman-owned company that's also a veteran, that also lives in a hub zone, and the company's in a hub zone, and they're economically disadvantaged? Why would we want them to submit 4 different applications to 4 different teams to get certified? And so we're coming out soon with some additional information about how do we consolidate these application processes, where a firm can come in through one portal, submit the documentation once, and come out with all the certifications that they're eligible for. And yes, is it important to get all the certifications you can? The government is setting aside contracts for small businesses, for service-disabled veterans, women. If you're eligible for all of those set aside, that increases your ability to access federal government contracts. And of course, the small business advisors love to see those firms that have multiple certifications, because we get to count the credits in all of those contracts. It means this company, if I have an opportunity to set aside a contract for you in multiple different areas, then we recognize that we can set it aside and increase our dollars in every program.
I just think of more opportunities when you said that, and I just got chill bumps. That's what happens to me at this stage of life. That's when I get stimulated, is when you talk about that one source in terms of handling these multiple
Yes.
certifications.
Yes.
And it really lines up with the administrator's charge on us to be more customer-centric, to be technology-forward and advancing
Yes,
equity.
it does.
And can you share testimonies? You and I have talked at length, and I have appreciated this about you, the value of testimonies. Can you share testimonies that you feel would encourage and or inform our large audience of small business owners?
This is my favorite thing to do, is share stories, and I have so many. And I think about all of the different types of firms that access government contracting to grow and scale their companies. You know, they start a dream, and then you're really taking just a leap of faith, just a leap of faith. And I mean, I remember one of my favorite stories years ago was the story of Dawn Halfacre. And she was a West Point graduate that went to Iraq, and then she lost one of her arms. And she came back wanting, still a young girl, still in her 20s, wanting to still serve her country. And she tried to figure out, how can I still serve? And she started a service-disabled veteran-owned company. She One of my favorite stories years ago was the story of Dawn Halfacre. And she was a West Point graduate that went to Iraq, and then she lost one of her arms. And she came back wanting, still a young girl, still in her 20s, wanting to still serve her country. And she tried to figure out, how can I still serve? And she started a service-disabled veteran-owned company. She
I apologize. I appear to be having some streaming issues with the video. Joe, I'm not positive if you could see if it will start from that point on for yours. Otherwise, we can also, I know we're coming up to the 11:30 timeframe, so we could always transition into it, and I can drop this video into our repository. So
Yeah, Amber, where did we end on that video? Just so that I have it teed up here.
I am at, it looks like I'm at like 12:58.
12:58.
So you wanted to start at the 13-minute mark.
Yep.
And Jack, I also want to be mindful that we are starting right at 11:30. So this is running into that score hour. If we wanted to transition, we could put the recording out as an available resource.
Got it. Joe, while you're looking at it, I'll just sort of summarize some stuff in case you want to see if you can pull up the tail end of the video. But Mark and Jack, you were highlighting a number of things, and I'm just going to reinforce some stuff in terms of the sam.gov portal, sort of the first place to start in terms of registering your business for potential public procurement opportunities. Sam.gov will also lead to some federal business opportunities, again, forecasting of what might be procured from the government. It looks like we've got the video pulled back up, so I'll sort of cut off there in case we want to play the tail end of it before we segue into the score session.
Yep, here we go.
continue to hold that company. You can buy a company, grow it, create jobs, and then transition that company. I also think about Obsidian Solutions Group. And Obsidian Solutions Group is in Fredericksburg, and it's run by Ty Logan. And he was an enlisted Navy man. He got certified in the 8A program. And right away, he started winning tremendous contracts for IT, for military training, and for intelligence work. He has over contracts that are worth over $100 million with the Department of State. And now he's graduated early from the 8A program because of his success. And he's a mentor to a brand new 8A. And then my favorite, I have to tell my favorite story, but I can keep going on and on about
love
this
it. I love
story.
this is the most important part.
It is. My favorite story is Melgar Facilities Management. And Melgar Facilities Management is run by Adelino Melgar. They call him Lino. And Lino is the baby son of two immigrants that started a custodial janitorial service. And it was just mom and pop, cleaning houses in the day and buildings at night. And quite often, Adelino and his brother, they were either with their parents in those buildings or at home by themselves. And they worked hard, the parents, to send those two sons to college. And one studied finance and Lino studied business. And they were able to afford him to go to DeVry University. But they were sending their sons to college. And when they graduated from college, they decided, Mom and Dad, we're going to take over the company and take care of you. And they took that company. Lino became the CEO. He took that company, got it 8A certified. They have probably over 400 employees now. I just took a look at their contracts. They've won over $200 million in contracts. This is a small company out of San Jose, California. They just moved their parents to Texas, and they live in a wonderful house. But just imagine that. They've shifted their trajectory of wealth for their family now for generations. And their children aren't going to have to worry about, can they afford college? And they're providing jobs to people that could potentially be overlooked. Now they're not just doing janitorial, they're doing facilities maintenance. They're doing landscape design for major military installations. It's a wonderful story. It's a wonderful story. It's MFM Industries, Melgar Facilities Management.
Well, Lino, if you're watching today, that is a tremendous story.
Jackie, you shared earlier, and I'm so excited about this, that our teams are collaborating, the Office of Entrepreneurial Development and Government Contracting and Business Development. Can you share a little bit more about this and shed a little light on the collaboration?
Yes. So you have the Thrive program, and Thrive has created successful entrepreneurs. And it's, the 8A program, this is just one of our many programs, but the 8A program, you go through it for 9 years. Or you could be a hub zone or an economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business. And we have a training program called 7J, which we just rebranded E to G, Empower to Grow. Empower to Grow. You can get on the SBA website and go to Empower to Grow and see all of the training opportunities that are offered through there. But Thrive had a cohort style training that really helped not just give information and knowledge to the firms, but help them collaborate together and be a cohort of teams of business owners that were working together beyond that training. And our administrator really wanted that for the government contractors. And so we're working with your team to kind of understand Thrive. And then also, how do we tap in to the other services that you offer to help train these firms? Not just, we focus on the government contracting, but how do they build their HR? How do they build their financial system? How do they build the infrastructure in their company where they can sustain? And that's how we're tapping into your team. And I'm so glad that you were open to kind of bringing us along to help us understand this. And you weren't just kind of holding tight to this information. And so I appreciate your team. They've been meeting with us. We have meetings regularly on the books. And I'm just looking forward to how can we take these government contractors and then, of course, help them really build the infrastructure of their company. And at the same, there may be companies that are going through Thrive and some of your programs that are interested in government contracting, and we can give that information and share the knowledge to them.
We are breaking silos here at the SBA as through action, not just words. And Jackie, how can small business owners and entrepreneurs stay informed about the latest updates and opportunities related to government programs for small businesses? And are there any regulatory updates that you want to highlight today?
Well, one of my favorite things to do is ask government contractors to take a look at regulations.gov. And in regulations.gov, you see all of the new regulations, and you actually get an opportunity to talk with the government about those regulations, and you can also give comments. And before we finalize those regulations, we actually go back to the community and respond to all of the comments. You don't want to wait until a regulation is finalized and then give a comment on it. You can help us shape by responding on regulations.gov. And we even put out in the Code of Federal Regulations the responses that we got and the answers. We just worked with the Office of Federal Procurement Policy, and Christine Harada, OMB, just released new guidance on the rule of two for multiple award contracts. So category management was a process where the government was awarding large contracts across the country so we could have economy of scale and save money. But quite often, small businesses didn't have a seat on all of those contracts. And so new guidance is coming out to say, we want to make sure where small businesses are capable, where 2 or more small businesses show that they are likely to submit a proposal at fair market price, they should have a seat at the table on those contracts. And look at all of the task orders that under a certain dollar threshold, the simplified acquisition threshold, which is $250,000, those contracts should automatically, those task orders should be automatically and exclusively set aside for small companies. And so that guidance just came out last week, and it's going to be solidified in regulations. But take a look at regulations.gov. And that's where you can really not just look at the regs, but participate in writing the regs.
That is a game changer.
It is.
So that comes back to what we talk about all the time, improving the opportunity for all.
Yes.
So what a enlightening conversation it's been. It's also been energetic. It's been hopeful. President Biden calls all of those 16 million new business applications acts of hope.
Yes.
And our administrator is working so hard day and night to ensure that those acts of hopes are supported. What are the top 2 to 3 takeaways that this audience can take away with them from this conversation?
Oh, goodness.
Just 2 or 3, right? That's hard with
I
everything that we talked
know.
about.
I think if you have a small business and you think you can offer a service to the federal government, just start. Like, just start. So many of our application process require you to be in business for 2 years, generating revenue shown by a tax return. And so we want firms to just get started. Get in sam.gov and fill out your application. Connect with Apex accelerators that are paid through Department of Defense for helping all federal government contractors access the information that they need. Get in that training. It's in person or it's online, and also connect with us. We have wonderful district offices all across the United States supporting the SBA. Engage OED with some of the training that they have, and meet me at the next conference in your city. And I just feel blessed to be a part of this huge boom of business growth. And I couldn't think of anything better than to get that call from the White House to come back and be a part of this.
We are excited that you're back, and we're excited that you joined us today. Hopefully you have 2 to 3 takeaways, and our ask of you is to make sure that you execute one of those takeaways in the next 90 days. Happy National Entrepreneurship Week. Jackie, thank you so much. I'm thrilled to work with you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Monique.
you so much.
Well, great. Thank you so much for that. I got to tell you, Amber, you know what's fascinating? We're going to jump. We're running just a little bit behind because of that glitch. But I did want to say one thing is that over the course of this week, what we've heard is from so many different agencies, and the topics of conversation have been mostly about prizes, grants, and SBIR. And what's fascinating about this conversation this morning, and what I love about the SBA, is the encouragement for entrepreneurs to seek contracting. So it's really important because contracting can make a significant difference in working and collaborating and co-creating with the federal government. I know that we're going to be switching over here. We have some guests from SCORE, but I do want to go ahead and thank Jackie and Mark for that presentation and taking the time to put that together, because contracting with the federal government is a wealth of opportunity. Amber, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think we touched on that a little bit yesterday, the contracting opportunity, and kind of hinted that that would be something that would come up on today's call. So to see that really highlighted, I think is an awesome resource that the SBA has shared with us today. So with that, I think we're going to throw it over to SCORE. So I know we have John on here. Jack, I don't know if you need to do any introductions, or if we're going to throw it right over there.
I think we have to test John's audio here, so he might. I don't know, Amber.
Yeah, we're going to give him a second. John's
There we go. I hear him.
And
It's
then
good.
John,
Here's
I
the
know we've
question.
got you paired up. We're just gonna. I think we need to give your client member a reminder, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
he's having trouble getting on, and I'm asking Amber to help him out.
Okay,
All
I'm
right.
seeing Billy it's Billy, correct?
Yes.
All right, I'm seeing Billy and the panelists. So Billy, if you, I'm prompting you to start your video and unmute, and you should be good to go.
Yeah, and Billy, if you're listening, sort of it's that lower ribbon in Zoom where you can activate your video. Typically, we'll welcome you on board. As he's figuring that out, we can actually, John, if you want to take just a couple minutes before you guys get into your talk,
Sure.
for folks that are not familiar with SCORE, if you want to give that sort of elevator pitch. I know you tell everybody
Absolutely.
else to give the elevator pitch every day, and then we'll hand it
Absolutely.
over to you and Billy to have your exchange.
Absolutely. My name's John Pietro. I'm a SCORE mentor, have been for the last 13 years. I've had the pleasure of speaking with probably 15 to 1,800 small business people. It is terribly rewarding work. It is very, very energetic work. It makes you feel really important that you are able to help someone start and then grow into success, a small business. I'm a corporate guy for 35 years, and at 51 years old, I started my own business, and wish I knew of SCORE because it would have helped me immensely. sold my business 12 years later for enough money to retire and have been a SCORE mentor ever since. This is rewarding work, absolutely rewarding work. So those of you out there, all I can say is I hope you will use the SCORE resources. And always remember, when you have a SCORE mentor, you have a SCORE mentor for as long as you want to have a SCORE mentor. I have people who have come to me for 8, 9, and 10 years, including Billy Thompson, who will be coming on in a few minutes.
Yeah,
that's my background.
We
Yeah,
have him, John. He's here.
John, Billy just joined us. Hey, Billy, welcome. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Hey, thanks for having me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can. We can hear you loud and clear. Thanks for
Okay,
joining.
awesome. I know, I appreciate that. Definitely had some technical difficulties. The Zoom's not allowing me to join via the browser, so I had to hop on my cell phone.
No worries.
So
We're nothing if
hope
not
everything looks
entrepreneurial
okay.
here.
Right, wherever there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about your experience with SCORE. I'm familiar with SCORE because when I wanted to start a business a number of years ago, I had actually approached SCORE, and the gentleman that I was working with actually said, you probably shouldn't start your business because he had a lot more experience in manufacturing than I did. And he was absolutely right. So tell us a little bit more about yourself first, and then about your experience with SCORE.
Yeah, hi. My name is Billy Thompson. I'm the inventor and co-founder of a product called the Thompson T with HydroShield sweat-proof technology. It is a specialized undershirt that blocks underarm sweat, and we've been in business since 2012. And we were actually on Shark Tank in 2017, and we engaged SCORE pretty early on in the process because, like every other startup, we were short on cash and in need of knowledge. And so we had reached out to SCORE, and it's just been a success ever since.
So walk us through, first of all, how did you find out about SCORE? And then walk us through a little bit about the relationship between you and John and kind of how that's unfolded.
Yeah, sure. Well, my business partner, he was familiar with SCORE and the SBA programs. I also had worked for the Small Business Development Center when I was in college. So I had some exposure to all of these sort of resources through that way. And that's how we got introduced to SCORE. And then our relationship with John, oh my gosh, John, he was running a marketing seminar for the SCORE folks. And at the end of it, it was a multi-session seminar. At the end of it, he had said that they were going to choose 3 of us to work with us exclusively one-on-one. And I knew at that point that was something that we needed to do. We needed to be one of the 3. And that's how the relationship with John started. And we've been in touch ever since.
That's great. So you mentioned the SBDC. I do want to go ahead and make a quick programming note that we will have some folks from the small business development centers, which are scattered all around the country, and they'll be joining us today at around 12:30 Eastern time. John, I want to throw it over to you a second because
Sure.
You became a SCORE mentor after selling your business.
Correct.
Talk a little bit about what it is about being a SCORE mentor that kind of inspired you to do this, and then maybe share a little bit more information about some of the work that you've been doing with Billy.
Sure. I think what inspired me the most is it's very difficult to start a small business. It's very, very difficult. I had a lot of experience, but it's still very, very difficult to start a small business. And I had good mentoring when I was in corporate America, and I always valued good mentoring. Therefore, when the opportunity came up to become a mentor to small businesses, I felt absolutely I should say yes. And I'm really glad I did, because it's given me the opportunity to share things I know through experience with people who are working very hard to try to make it, but making mistakes, not out of carelessness, but out of ignorance. That's what we can help with, is making mistakes more out of ignorance, fix those mistakes so that you can move forward. That's kind of how I got involved with SCORE. And I've loved it ever since. I absolutely love doing it.
So you bring a lot of gravitas. Would you mind sharing just a little bit about the business, your past business experience,
Sure.
and what you did and what
Sure.
you sold and how that became applicable? And then Billy, I'm gonna throw it over to you to kind of chime in here just a little bit on how that experience, and maybe speak a little bit more specifically about how that assistance might have helped you. So John, tell us a little bit more about that past experience and how that fed
Sure.
into.
I spent about 35 years in the restaurant business. I started out in a steakhouse chain in Denver, Colorado, where I'm from. We were about a $150 million chain. We were in about 15 states. I found I enjoyed the business. I had virtually all the marketing positions, including the chief marketing officer. I was recruited to Wendy's International from this job. My first job at Wendy's was to be in charge. We separated the country into 3 segments: East, Midwest, and West. I managed one of the 3 of the sections. Then I became the head of field marketing. I managed all of the field marketing efforts, both in the United States and Canada, and we had 1 franchisee in Puerto Rico. Then I became a vice president of marketing and a chief marketing officer, and had a lot of experience working with advertising agencies to develop campaigns, and then the use of media, and just in general, the strategy of marketing. From there, I came west because I wanted to live in California. I worked for a mid-size advertising agency, then a very large advertising agency called Omnicom, one of the big 3 in the agency business.
One of the largest advertising companies, sure.
Correct. And then at 51 years old, I came home, told my wife, I quit my job today. I'm going to start my own business.
Wow.
I was lucky I'm still alive, actually.
We're all lucky you're still alive, especially Billy.
And I started my own advertising agency, specializing in what I knew the most: food service, soft beverage, and hospitality. And I made a lot of mistakes in the first couple of years. That's the period of time I wish I knew about SCORE, because I could have used it. As I figured them out, I built the business to a pretty solid business, and 12 years later sold it for enough money to retire.
That's phenomenal. I'm going to ask you to pause here for a second, because the piece that I want to lean in is you are representative of other SCORE volunteers who do this work, who bring a wealth of experience and knowledge. And you were working and doing marketing over at Wendy's, multinational corporation, had wonderful experience in order to be able to go ahead. Billy, the question I have for you, here you have John, you're sitting in, he said, we're going to have, one of 3 participants, and he's been involved and done a lot with the restaurant industry, right? Talk to us a lot about how, Billy, that has translated for you in terms of your ability to tap into his brain. Thankfully, John is still around in order to be able to go ahead and help us with all that. Share with us that information.
Well, I mean, as you guys heard, there's a plethora of experience that John has had. And the fact that, we could get somebody with that much experience and that much knowledge for free is honestly mind-blowing. And as you alluded to, there are a lot of guys in SCORE that have done the same thing, right? They have a ton of experience. They may be retired, semi-retired, and they're looking to sort of, give back and also be a part of something that, money can't necessarily buy, right? Like, you can't find all these small businesses and hitch on to, some of their success and help them become successful. That's something you just can't go out and sort of drum up on your own. So being a part of an organization like SCORE allows these mentors to do that and to give back and experience some of those things that, quite frankly, money just can't necessarily buy. And so, so there's a ton of experience across the board, and whatever, every mentor has their strengths, of course, and then every mentor knows the network of mentors that could specialize in certain things, whatever it may be: manufacturing, importing, exporting, licensing, manufacturer reps, sales, you name it. And so John, he's got a broad range of experience, and not only and then on top of that, he has had his own business as well and had a successful exit. So as a lot of these guys will know, business owners and startups, it really doesn't matter sort of what business it is, right? There's going to be a lot of similar challenges in just running any business, whether it's a pizza shop or, an e-commerce company. There's going to be pieces that are very similar and can cross over as far as your ability to relate to other business owners. And so, again, John brought to the table, a business acumen that really allowed us to kind of clear the clutter, which again is very different. When you're a startup, you're spraying in every different direction because you're trying everything to see what works and what doesn't work. And he was able to help us in the very beginning identify sort of what was working with us, and then allowed us to kind of focus on that initiative, and that we're really the distribution channel, which is the direct to consumer channel that you just pulled up here on the screen. And so when we decided to focus exclusively on that channel, that's when things really started happening for us. Right around that time, right around the time we met John, we were experimenting with trying to sell our undershirts because they block underarm sweat in the antiperspirant aisle. And of course, the first retailer that had agreed to do that with us and test it was Rite Aid. That didn't go so well. Obviously you have to take risks. Maybe we couldn't sell undershirts in the antiperspirant aisle, but it was something we wanted to try. And then it was from that point moving forward, we decided not to focus on brick and mortar, to focus exclusively on direct to consumer. Through SCORE, we also found our digital marketing person, who went on to start a company, a digital marketing agency, right around the time he started working with us, because we couldn't afford him at the time to bring him on in-house. So he went out and created this digital marketing agency. And through that, he's optimized our online experience. And we've been D2C ever since. Now, are we going to start looking at, brick and mortar down the road? For sure. It's definitely a growth avenue. But those are the things that John had helped us focus on very early. And, hindsight's 2020. Had we been brick and mortar heavy when COVID hit, we probably wouldn't be talking right now, right? Yeah. So the fact that we controlled the database and we built it out direct to consumer allowed us to pivot. Because of our supply chain, we're making T-shirts, so we have the ability to make cotton masks. So we did that and was able to market that to our consumers. So that allowed us to get through the COVID period. We also donated 30,000 masks, actually more like 40,000 masks during that time frame, because that's what we were running. We were running a promo at that time. Buy
Billy,
3 and we'll donate.
Let me interject for just a second here, because
Sure.
one of the things that you hit on that I want to underscore here, is this whole idea that you've had the opportunity to go ahead and engage with John, but John was able to go ahead and help you connect with other folks. And so you were able to tap into a digital marketing person who you've been working with in order to go ahead and create this, direct to consumer model, which is significant, but also highlights one of the big benefits of the SCORE mentorship program. And you kind of mentioned it earlier. It's not just the person that you're tapping into, it's all these other executives who've done just fantastic different types of businesses and business opportunities. For the folks that are listening here, the one thing that I'd like you to go ahead and do maybe a little bit more deeper dive and just share about is, what does it look like, right? Like I suspect that the constructs of this kind of relationship is fluid. But how did you guys kind of sort of get started? Did you meet on a weekly basis? What sort of consistency did you have? And how did you go ahead and tap into, and how maybe has that changed over time, Billy?
Well, John ran a little more structured program than what we've experienced with other SCORE mentors, in that, he had this program, this multi-part session that we joined. I can't remember what the frequency of it was, if it was weekly. And then after that, when he chose the 3 businesses that they were going to work on, there was a little bit more of a structured and sort of frequency there. But I think that's very subjective to the mentor. Outside of that exception, based on our other experience with other mentors too through SCORE, it's really on an as needed basis, right? And it's sort of when you need, when you need the information and you need some advice, you can always reach out. And that's sort of how the relationship, I believe, based on our experience, typically is. I think John is a bit of an exception, and we got lucky that it was a little more structured. But, at the end of the day, if you feel like, you need that structure, then you may voice that with your mentor, and that mentor at that point in time can decide, how much of their time and effort they want to allocate towards you. Because again, at the end of the day, you're not their only client per se. And technically you're not paying these people. So you have to be respectful of that relationship and that time. But again, it'll probably be subjective to the mentor themselves. But I would say it's on an as needed basis.
Yeah, thanks, Billy, for that. Hey, John, let me ask you this question. Sure. So what advice would you give to folks
who are thinking about a mentor, because there's something in Billy and his business that you saw, one of the 3 businesses. And obviously, you're a seasoned executive, and I've done a lot of mentoring myself. And I know that, at the end of the day, you want to go ahead and work with people who have potential. So I'm curious about what is it that you would recommend, maybe some tips and tricks for anybody who might be listening to this video today, how they might go ahead and best put themselves in a position to get the biggest benefit for the services that somebody like you provides.
I think the single most important thing is, do you know who your customer is? Most don't. They just want customers, but they don't know who their customer is, and they don't take the time to find out. So if we don't identify our customer, we're sort of swinging in the dark. We're like the kids who use a piñata and they put the mask on them and they hope they can hit the piñata. I see that kind of thing from a lot of people, and the first thing I try to make people do is understand who your customer is. There are tools that are available to help you do this. I have given seminars on this, probably close to 100 seminars on this. And they're just simple things. They're just simple things like this that make people know. If you don't know who your customer is, you'll never, ever get from A to B. You'll spend a lot of time and money pounding away, but you won't find the success until you know who your customer is. Once you know who your customer is, then you want to ask, how do I speak to my customer? And the best marketing formula is something called problem and solution. The customer's got a problem, you've got a solution. If you put those 2 things together, you now have something to say. You now have a place to start to tell the customer, you've got this problem and I can solve this problem. And the last thing I would advise them is know your competitors, because it's important that you understand what you do and what they do and what you do better than what they do. Those things are really the fundamentals. The people who will take the time to learn those things will start to find their marketing to be more effective. Most people leap to tactics. Very few people spend time on strategy. I'm the exact opposite. Until you figure out your strategy, the tactics really don't matter, because they're based around understanding who your customer is and how you want to speak to your customer, which means politely, you have to give the customer a reason to believe. If you don't give them a reason to believe, they won't.
So, John, it sounds to me like what you're saying is, for the folks who are listening here, is to really have an understanding of their customer when they come to a SCORE member and look at the possibility. We showed up just a couple the website, and there's a whole host of resources on where to get started and how to get started, as well as business templates and those sorts of things. And being able to go ahead and tap into that. I think one of the biggest challenges sometimes is that you look at something like this and it's sort of like too good to be true, right?
Yep.
How can we go ahead and get somebody free, somebody with, and maybe don't necessarily take advantage of that opportunity or don't value it because it is free. But I imagine when you charge clients on an hourly rate, you were not, as part of your advertising firm, you probably weren't too, you were not inexpensive and certainly doing it for free the way you are now.
That's correct. That is correct. That we charged considerably more.
Yeah. I'm sure of that. And Billy, from your side of things, anybody who is contemplating, thinking about, utilizing the services of a SCORE mentor, any thoughts from your side of things on recommendations, tips, or tricks that you would recommend to folks who are maybe in a similar position or considering a SCORE mentor?
Yeah, I would say find your local SCORE chapter and just reach out. Just start with a phone call. Reach out, tell them what what problem areas you're looking for, take that initial consultation, and just like everything else, don't get discouraged if the first person you meet with wasn't a home run. It does, we've met with several SCORE mentors, and not all of them were a perfect match, but at the end of the day, that's part of the process. You have to navigate your way through the mentors to find the ones that will match up with you and what you need. And so at the very least, this individual that you meet with will be able to point you in the right direction. So that's my advice to anyone is, again, don't get discouraged if the first, meeting or few meetings didn't go quite as planned. But at the end of the day, you are going to navigate the network of SCORE mentors, and you will find people that you sync up with that can really help your business.
It's a little bit like dating. That's what I'm hearing. This is a little bit like dating. You got to go.
I was like, it's like therapy.
Well, exactly. I mean, look, at the end of the day, doctors, lawyers, any service provider, and you're paying for those people. And so, it just, sometimes there's a match, sometimes there's not. So I would say definitely don't get discouraged, if you have to go through a couple meetings to find these folks, because at the end of the day, everyone has their specialty, and they can help your business out.
Hey, Joe. Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah. I saw Jack, you just popped on.
Yeah, I was going to pose one to John and Billy real quick. Again, guys, thanks, Jack from the Small Business Administration. We had some online questions. Let me just verbalize them for you. Sure. So, John, I love this one. So I gave them the answer, but I want you to reinforce it. Somebody was asking, well, do I have to be in Billy's industry to benefit from SCORE counseling? What if I'm a mechanic? What if I'm a banker? I bragged, but you tell them, right? I challenged any industry to contact SCORE, because you all cover so much. And it's not just solely geographically bound, right? Because you have expertise that somebody can connect on the other side of the country if the right person is in a different market. But why don't you re-answer that question for the audience?
I think I have worked with big businesses. I've worked with small businesses. I've worked with mom and pops who are trying to do something out of their house or out of their truck or out of their garage. They're all businesses to me. Some are bigger, some are smaller, but to somebody, each and every single business is important. So I don't think about the size or any of those things. I think about, what are these people trying to accomplish, and exactly and precisely what can I present to them to help them be successful? I have worked with people all over the world. The most unique experience of all is I had the pleasure of working with a naval officer who was about to come out of the service and wanted to start a business in hydroponics. And we met every other Thursday for 1 hour. And finally, after about our second meeting, I said, where are you located? He said, I can't identify it exactly, but I'm in a submarine in the Subic Bay. I thought I was utterly fascinated with this, that he would take his 1 hour of Wi-Fi time to spend with me. And I worked with him for a number of months, every second Thursday for 1 hour, because that was his time. And he actually moved forward when he docked in San Diego and started a hydroponic business. I mean, those are the stories you live for. It's why you do this, by the way.
And I would bet Billy and other clients on the reverse side, would share some stories, but oh my gosh, I got exposure to a former Wendy's executive or other issues. Billy, you touched upon this in my final question for you guys, but I know Joe and Amber may have some other ones that came in online. So Billy, like a previous session, we kicked off the day, there's a marketplace of consultants, coaches, universities that provide this. It sounds like I get the sense you knew there was a market out there. You were aware of some things. You made choice whether you try this one, that one, or the other. Do you think that's common for entrepreneurs, right? They're looking at growth opportunities or something they're struggling with. They may have seen an ad about a consultant that's promising them a lot. They may see some state or federal resources. And you gotta, time is precious, and you got to figure out where to allocate your time. So again, for an entrepreneur who's like, well, John's not a baker, why would I reach out to them? What again would you say, entrepreneur to entrepreneur, to get over that hump, including if one is reserved to share any of their business knowledge? I'll mention real quick, and you know this, Billy, John's bound by a code of ethics to not disclose anything you all share. John's not going to walk away with your business plan. John's not going to bill you some surprise invoice at the end of the month. All great things by generous efforts by SCORE and their volunteers. But Billy, entrepreneur, when people get stuck and they don't want to pursue coaching, what advice or reminders do you want to give them again to get over that hump? Because quite often that's not the solution, but the assistance they need to find the solution.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it can be a very common problem for any entrepreneur to, we like to say, stay in the weeds and, keep trying to, work in the business instead of working on the business. Right. And so, just to be some of the characteristics of being an entrepreneur, you always want to grab the bull by the horns and do, but, at the end of the day, it's that entrepreneurial spirit that will allow you to reach out and find answers, right? You're constantly looking for solutions, right? You're constantly looking for solutions. So if running a business is all about problem, solution, problem, solution, problem, solution. It's always, the early days, it felt like I was a firefighter, right? Because we're just putting out fires every day, right? These problems that arise. And, as the owner, and then once you start building out your team and you start getting, people that can handle some of the day-to-day stuff, then you really have a distillation of some of the business's hardest problems, right? Which naturally that's the way it should flow, right? Because if there's problems that can be handled by your team, they should be handling it. They should be doing those things to free you up to really focus on some of the biggest challenges facing the business. And so when that happens, you can't expect yourself to know all those things, right? Unless you've done it. And so having to reach out and find the information, I would say, don't ever be afraid of that. But to get over that hurdle, I mean, it's really probably just a personal choice. And I mean, let's face it, it's probably human nature to be reluctant to sort of reach out for help. But, for me, I would much rather have someone tell me, do this, this, and this, and I go execute versus having to figure it out and trial and error and all this other stuff. So, there's a bit of an efficiency freak that resides inside of me that, it doesn't want to spin my wheels and waste my time. I just, listen, tell me exactly how to do it and I'll do it. And that, that fatigue wears on an entrepreneur as well. If you're always having to figure out new things, you're always having to try new things. So it's a breath of fresh air to find people to say, oh, we've already done this and this is what you can do this, this, and this. And then you can start off on that path too. So again, to get over that hurdle, it's just a matter of, you just gotta make that choice to reach out and ask for help. And especially with something like SCORE, there's no commitments, there's no contracts, nobody's selling you anything. So, the conflict of interest isn't there, right? I mean, these people are doing this out of the genuineness of their desire to see you succeed, which is very rare in business in general, right? At the end of the day, money makes the world go around. So, to reach out to SCORE, you're getting some genuine help, right? Some help that you can trust.
Yeah, thank you guys. John, I often tell people, especially at the beginning of the year where all of us head back into the gym, right? We try to get fit. You can go on the treadmill and try to, figure it out yourself. Your technique might not be exactly right. I make that parallel that SCORE and our other partners are often your business fitness coach,
You're
right?
correct.
You're going to put the effort. Billy's got it sort of in his blood to be an entrepreneur. Might little tweaking or a little coaching here and there. He's going to do the work with his team. But just like a fitness coach, they're going to tell you how many reps do you need to do? Are you hitting some metrics and those other things in a gentle coaching way, right? Billy's seems like he's an active lifelong learner and is open to the feedback. You don't have all the answers, but you got a wealth of knowledge and no structure about how businesses succeed.
This is correct. I want to say this though before we end. When I met Billy, he was doing 500,000. This year he'll do 8 million. That's what SCORE does.
Can you repeat those numbers again? That's huge.
500,000 when I first met him. He's doing 8 million now.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's why you join SCORE. That's why you either enjoy that, I enjoy it beyond words, or you don't. But
yeah,
that's what we do.
And John, thank you for that. And that's actually, we're down 2 million because we still haven't fully recovered from COVID. So we had some supply chain issues like everyone else. And so we're down about 2 million from our peak. So we did hit close to 10 million. So that, and to John's point, we also became, what we're doing now, like any small business can use press and can use coverage, right? This is free. We built our business in the very early days in a large part on PR, right? And so through SCORE, we were awarded their National Diversity Award for our business. We were highlighted as an SBA success story. through their programs. And so we've gotten press and accolades and awards for being a part of this. And again, this was all free. And so, it's a great resource. And I think it would be crazy not to utilize it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, what a fantastic conversation this morning here on the East Coast about all this. And thank you, John and Billy. Continued much success with your business. It's great to see this mentor relationship work. For those of you that are listening, as Jack said, and I think it's an important thing to point out, it doesn't cost anything. There's no conflict of interest. They're not trying to sell you anything. Billy and John, thank you guys so much for the opportunity for you guys to share this wonderful story. And Billy, good luck and congratulations. We're gonna keep an eye on things. We're excited to see how things continue to grow.
Yeah. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having us on.
Absolutely. Wow, that was powerful. Really, really powerful conversation about, for those folks who are listening, man, if you're not tapping into that, you are missing out on a huge, huge opportunity to be able to take your business to the next level. When they first got started, 500 grand, all the way up to 10 million. Obviously, supply chain and those sorts of issues impacted every business, but they're back up to $8 million. You know what? That's a good problem to have as far as I'm concerned, getting up to from 500 to 8 million. So I know that we have some other folks coming on board here. Amber or Jack, do you want to share with us who's coming on line?
Yeah, let me kick it off, Amber. You may need to flag a couple people, some of my colleagues here. We're taking a little bit of time with this break and converting it into a session where some of my colleagues at the SBA that work with these trusted mentors that are featured today. I see Sarah's on board. Ray is going to join us. Jackie is also going to join us, and Anna. So Amber, if you're tracking them or if we need to tag them and bring them on screen, we're giving other folks just a minute or two to grab that cup of coffee, some water, and then I'm going to facilitate a quick dialogue. Really want to showcase my awesome colleagues. Quite often we're behind the scenes because the mentors are the superstars out there, like John, who was just talking about his work with Billy. But entrepreneurship between our public sector work, private sector work, our finance communities, the government contractors that we highlighted earlier. We want to make sure everybody sort of knows some of these programs. We, like everybody, have got a great website. So quite often, if you access stuff, you're going to go through sba.gov, score.org, or some of the other websites we'll highlight. So you too can be featured in maybe the next Small Business Week or National Entrepreneurship Week as a successful client or small business owner who's continuing to grow. Billy's story is very inspirational. And just to follow up the SCORE mention, which my colleague Jackie will talk about in a couple minutes, SCORE really deep expertise, right? So between all these industries, their experiences, we also do have retired bankers, the financiers who were quite often on the other side of the table when you went in to apply for a loan. They now in a retired capacity can talk about, again, what does a current banker or finance organization look at in terms of metrics? So you're just that much more prepared if you fill out an application or pursue an SBA or other financing solution for your business. All right, I'm just taking a quick look at my screen for my other colleagues here. Sarah and Anna, thanks for joining us. I see Ray on there, and Jackie may be on either video or audio, but let me get it kicked off real quick. Amber, anything additional before I sort of get some of my colleagues to highlight some of the additional sessions we're going to do in a little bit?
No, I'll just say, before you start talking, just keep in mind that you're probably muted when you came in, so you might just need to unmute when asked a direct question. But yeah, I think you're good to go, Jack. Go ahead and kick us off.
Awesome. So again, just for my colleagues who are running out of meetings or other commitments throughout the day, we kicked off the day. Mark and Jackie from Entrepreneurial Development and Government Contracting kicked off SBA Day as part of National Entrepreneurship Week, talking about sort of the partnerships that are evolving across our agency, including entrepreneurship development and government contracting. Jackie, of course, focused a lot of what the agency is doing to help small businesses access contracting opportunities across the spectrum of the federal government and all the agencies. Earlier this week, Joe and Amber featured a number of federal office hours So our colleagues that we work with on a daily basis at all the agencies really sort of talked about their individual agencies' work focused on small business. A really great turnout. Folks gave those updates and that stuff. During SBA Day, as you all know, because you all sort of align some of these mentors that are featured throughout the day, we just finished the session following Jackie and Mark Madrid with a score mentoring session. So they talked about how they were first introduced, how the client became aware of the service, sort of signed up, was assessed, and how the mentor sort of developed a relationship to talk about where the business needed to go next. But with that, and of course, I warned everybody, we're not going to make people students of all the federal acronyms, but I do want to take a couple minutes, and I'm proud that you all joined me to talk a little bit about the programs at the macro level before folks dial into the next couple segments. Sarah, let me tee up with you first. Not a lot of people in sort of Main Street America may know that SBA works to help support small businesses accessing global markets, exporting and really scaling their business unless they're already designed to sort of be a pure exporter. For that Main Street person that isn't currently involved, can you give a little bit of an elevator pitch or introduction to what SBA does to help small businesses pursue global markets? And then I'll ask you a couple follow-ups real quick, but give the introduction of what SBA does to help people export.
Well, Jack, thank you so much. I think it's a kind of a surprise. We did a study, and there's actually 1.3 million small businesses that are exporting. That's taking into account all the small trade that's going on. And digital opportunities have really exploded since COVID. So we have expanded our market. We think about 2.6 million small businesses could be exporting. So many of the people who are on today, if they're not already thinking of selling outside our borders, the SBA's Office of International Trade is there to help at any stage, and we're your champion. We have business intelligence, grants, and export financing, including counseling on all those topics to help you to succeed. And it's just natural that the world is big, there's buyers everywhere, and we have resources to assist the small businesses. So I hope that's a good start. I'm happy to take more questions.
Yeah, quick follow-up before I sort of pivot over to our colleagues. So Sarah, your team that we work with on a regular basis, from a small business owner perspective, do they call you directly, or how do they find that purpose? If they're in Chicago, should they go through our district office or one of the grantees you mentioned? Do they have to call Washington, D.C. to get assistance, or how do they find that local resource for the services that you all provide?
So SBA is big. We have district offices. We have a wide wealth of resource partners that people can just go to locally to tap into those services. But a really quick way is our hotline. We have an international trade hotline. As it's an email, it's a phone number and an email. The email is international@sba.gov. You can find everything at sba.gov/trade tools, and that has information on foreign markets, our grant programs, how to get counseling, where to plug in. And I think that's one of the fastest ways to get to your local provider or to talk to us directly. And we answer people almost every single day. And it's a really great way to make sure that small businesses get to where they need to be and to get to the right resource partner for trade.
Awesome. And I know you all, like you mentioned early on, focus a lot on sort of the financing angle of international trade. You can help people understand a market overseas and whether it's a good fit for their product services. Obviously, the regulatory environment, different rules in different countries, and that stuff. You all know this like the back of your hand, and or through your technical experts. So thank you for everything on that. And again, we've got an international trade focused session coming up this afternoon. Ray, let me pivot over to you, buddy. Thanks for joining us real quick. We also have a session towards, I think it's at the 1:30 p.m. mark for folks that want to dial in for that feature one of your valuable partners. Can you tell us a little bit about your unit, right? So we do have dedicated units. You represent one of those units serving veterans, and how in the retail, right, the local market, that plays out.
Jack, thank you very much, and happy National Entrepreneurship Week to everybody. I'm Ray Milano. I'm with the SBA's Office of Veterans Business Development. Our office focuses, and we're the advocate for veteran-owned, military spouse-owned, military affiliate-owned small businesses across the country. I'm lucky to be the national advocate and spokesperson and voice for the Veteran Business Outreach Center program, the VBOC program, which is one of the SBA resource partners, along with SCORE mentors, the Small Business Development Centers, the Women Business Centers. VBOCs are the gateway to SBA's programs and resources for veterans, transitioning service members, military spouses, military family members, National Guard Reserve members. VBOCs are an extension of the SBA district office. We put it that way. We work with all the other resource partners, the district offices. We work across all SBA programs. We want to be that navigator of SBA programs and resources, that one-stop shop. So when you walk in, that VBOC is able to talk to you about what your goals are, whether you're starting a business, growing a business, whether you're exiting a business, whether you want access to capital, government contracting, whatever it is, that VBOC be able to assess your needs and connect you with the resources, programs, and mentors to get you started and grow that small business.
Great, Ray. So framing a different way, why different services for veterans? Well, obviously, we all express our thanks to our military heroes, what I call heroes, for what they do. But why different business services? Is business management so different for veteran entrepreneurs than non-veteran entrepreneurs?
Well, it's definitely a different culture. And, one of the main missions of the Veteran Business Outreach Center program is delivery of the Boots to Business program. So Boots to Business is the entrepreneurship track of the Transition Assistance Program for the Department of Defense. So VBOCs are the operational and instructional leads for the Boots to Business program at over 170 installations across the country doing Boots to Business. So, the culture is different. Having access to DOD and the military installations is a little different. So we try to make it as easy as possible for those military service members and spouses to transition out of the military and into the civilian world. And the VBOCs provide that bridge for those that are looking to start a business or get into entrepreneurship.
Great. Yeah, and Ray, that reminds me earlier today when Jackie was talking about a government contracting realm, she talked about the veteran certification program. So again, there are some specialty certifications, maybe some financing programs across the spectrum of agencies at the national, state level that your men and women that provide this technical assistance can really help navigate. I love that term you mentioned earlier, so folks know about the programs and anything unique to their market. Hey, Anna, let me ask you a question. You're one of our people, speaking of navigation, that have to navigate not on just one program, but across agencies and other efforts. The reason being is because you help our agency and our collaborators really focus on a geographic market. So can you do a quick introduction and sort of hint out what I'm inferring to and why we have somebody, with your expertise and your leadership focusing our efforts in this geographic market?
Sure. Thank you, Jack. And hello to everybody. Happy National Entrepreneurship Week. My name is Anna Lucas. I'm with the Office of Rural Affairs here at the Small Business Administration. My role really is to work both through all of our huge resource partner network and our district teams to ensure that rural business owners have access to all the same resources that SBA has as the rest of the country. We have quite a job to do to make sure that our name gets out there, that our services get out there. We know that there are some challenges if you are in a rural area of things like high-speed internet and access to capital, access to government contracting, a lot of the same challenges that many of our small business owners have that can sometimes be sort of uniquely challenging if you are operating and living in a rural space. And so part of my role is to try to make sure that we make an effort on the SBA side through our folks on the ground that are already doing a lot of great work to bring some of these resources to bear to make sure that our rural business owners have the same access to these resources as everyone else. One way I'll quickly demonstrate as an example is we at the SBA are working closely with our partners at USDA. I think you heard from some of my colleagues there yesterday. We as two agencies are working together to try to streamline and coordinate our outreach to small businesses in rural spaces. USDA has sort of a natural niche for folks who are involved in ag production or farming or ranching. And SBA, a lot of our products and services are eligible for those folks in those industries as well. And so we're working with USDA to try to have our information right next to theirs when they're doing outreach and helping small business owners in that space. So I'll stop there, Jack. Happy to take a follow-up if that's necessary, but I appreciate you having me. And thanks to everybody on the line for all you're doing.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. We're really sort of important priority. We've got strategic, important, and really advantageous rural opportunities with agricultural efforts, energy, industry issues, and other areas that you're focusing on, Anna. So thank you for all your work. I know you mentioned USDA. Yeah, great session yesterday. I think you've engaged our FDIC on some financial literacy and financing education. I suspect you're sort of growing that coalition on a daily basis, and including our regional leaders, right? Especially in the agricultural community, so critically important. So thank you for everything. Folks, again, at sba.gov, you can either find out about some of these national initiatives or drill down. We've got a local sort of resource finder. You can plug in your zip code. It'll sort of churn out local resources, whether they're mentors or Sarah's team on the export assistance. If we've got a state or collaborative partner in your city or state or region that you can walk into, maybe go into a workshop. If you're not ready to engage one-on-one, you can sort of be part of a student base. Ray talked about the Boots to Business. You'll get a dedicated communication from your military partner about that, or the SBA, or Ray's local partners that might sort of get you into a newsletter. So again, about the opportunity. You always have this for a one-on-one coaching relationship. But if you're a learner that wants either a workshop or maybe an online class, we have those available to you as well. I don't see my colleague Jackie West on here, but
Jack, I'm here. I'm here, but I don't know why. It's telling me that the host has done something to the camera, so I can't show up.
No worries.
But you can hear me. That's fine. I'm here.
We can hear you.
So Jacqueline Woods East. Jackie is my colleague who does an awesome job being our primary facilitator with SCORE, the session we just held. Jackie, though, that's not all you do. We talked a lot about SCORE. Let me ask you just to give a quick plug for the Thrive program. Describe for the audience what that is, how they might sign up. I know you've got a strict schedule of those Thrive sessions. And then anything else you want to sort of promote. Your team in the Office of Entrepreneurship Education has a robust portfolio. Prime is the relationship with SCORE, but talk a little bit about the Thrive effort that you lead.
Thanks, Jack. Good afternoon, everyone. I actually came ready to talk about SCORE, but I can talk about all of the programs in the Office of Entrepreneurship Education. One of them is Thrive. Of course, there's SCORE. We also have a cybersecurity grant program. It is a pilot, and we're in our second iteration of that program. So those are some of the programs in my office. Let's talk about Thrive. So Thrive is a program where business owners can join a program of a lower level caliber where they will learn different cohorts of information throughout a condensed period, about 8 months. And they learn different topics that are business related that can assist them with the core of their business. And so it's kind of like a class where they're set up to do different topics throughout the class. Everyone participates, and everyone must participate. And we have to have a level of comfort to know that once you start, you will end. And we basically give you a syllabus of information to which you and all of the other Thrive cohort members throughout the country will actually participate in. We have about 64 cohorts. We have project managers from SBA offices throughout the country that actually serve as leadership in their respective offices through the district offices. And we have other groups of folks that help to put together the syllabus. We have business professionals that we have engaged and brought in as leaders and instructors that actually will present each one of these types of cohorts. It's a really robust program. It is a great program for business owners that are, looking to thrive and move their business into another, another category. For those that some are smaller, some are larger, but at the very end of it, you get a group of people that graduate into almost like a team, right? Where they actually can, work with each other at the end to make sure that they're pushing each other together and thriving together. So it's a lot more about Thrive that I could talk about, but that is the gist of the program. As a matter of fact, we are taking applications now. The portal just opened this week, where folks that are interested can actually apply to be a part of the Thrive program. So we're really looking forward to that. So I'll stop there because I'll keep talking.
No, it's a great program, Jack. I appreciate you highlighting it. Again, folks can go to sba.gov, maybe segue over to your local district office. Again, really easy. Just type in your zip code or use our mapping function. You can find out about these services. Thrive, big commitment on your part, but a big outcome and big result, big impact, because they run you through a ton of information, including, Jackie just mentioned quickly, cybersecurity. You can find out information about that. Joe and Amber, I think we're up at time. Our Small Business Development Center experts, I think, are up next. So we're going to pivot into that. But to all my colleagues, thank you all for everything you do to run these programs, all the reporting, funding, legislative requirements, all critically important to make sure these networks, continue their service of excellence. Thank you so much.
Jack, I just want to underscore and reiterate that as well. Thank you all for, every time I have the opportunity we have the opportunity to engage. I mean, this is exactly the reason that we relaunched National Entrepreneurship Week, from our veterans to, import, export, and just the rural. There's such a range of opportunities for folks to avail themselves of services and resources that just going to help you really accelerate your business to the next level. And so for all of the folks who are participating and joining us from the SBA, thank you for sharing your wisdom, and thank you for going out there every day and helping our small businesses and spur entrepreneurial growth in communities all across the country. We really appreciate all your valiant efforts. And we know this is not just a job, but it's a labor of love as well. So thank you for all of that. We are going ahead and switching gears to the SBDC. That's the Small Business Development Centers. Jack, I know, based on some of the folks that I've had the opportunity to work with over the years at the SBDC, that there was a big annual conference and that there's SBDC centers all across the country. In fact, when I was the entrepreneur in residence at Eastern West Virginia Community and Technical College, we brought in an SBDC coach, the first one in the area and the region. And so I had the opportunity to gain firsthand exposure at the amazing job that these folks do on working on the ground, hand-holding and working, co-creating with entrepreneurs on the ground. So I am excited to go ahead and welcome the folks from the Small Business Development Center. Jack, do you want to go ahead and do a short introduction here, or happy to go ahead and have Todd and Dustin introduce themselves? Welcome.
Yeah, let me hand it over to these guys. They're the pros, but thank you all for joining us today, guys.
Dustin, why don't you go first?
Well, my name is Dustin Rhodes, and I'm the owner of Ability Tech, and I have used the SBD services from Todd here quite extensively over the last couple of years. And it's been a great help.
Great. Tell us a little bit more about your business, and then we'll throw it over to Todd to tell us a little bit more about America's SBDCs.
Yeah, so Ability Tech, we invent and manufacture adaptive technology for people with disabilities. One of the ways we stand out from most other companies is we design our products to the individual first, because everybody that's got a disability, even if they're the same, the severities are different. So instead of trying to hit the whole market first, we hit the individual first and then expand outside of there.
Wow, so you really create a product that is very tailored to the individual and helps them gain greater mobility and greater opportunities to be able to participate in all of life's activities. Is that right?
That's right. Our main goal is to help every individual improve their quality of life.
Wow, what a fantastic, not only fantastic business, but also fantastic mission in order to be able to go ahead and assist these various businesses. I'm sorry, these various individuals with your business. I'm sure that it's both a labor of love as well as an opportunity to create a viable business. And you must get a lot of satisfaction from knowing how many people you guys help.
Yes, that's our biggest thing is seeing the excitement that these individuals get to be able to do something that they normally don't get to do on a day-to-day basis that most of us actually take for granted every day.
Yeah, I want to come back to that in just a second, Dustin, because I want to hear a little bit more about that and how your business enables them. So think about that, you know, as a specific example you might be able to share with us. But what I want to do is I want to throw it over to Todd. Todd, America's Small Business Development Centers. You got in your hands these businesses and the opportunity to be able to help them. First of all, tell us a little bit more about your background and how you came to go ahead and work with this America's Small Business Development Centers.
Wow. I'm a veteran. I've owned some businesses and I've worked in manufacturing about 20 years. And when 2009 came around and the recession, everybody who worked for me was laid off and I was laid off, and MBAs were a dime a dozen. And my wife goes, "Why don't you teach?" So I started teaching business classes in college, doing some corporate training. And I had never even heard of this position. And my boss, who works at the college, who is my host, Western Iowa Tech, said, "Why don't you apply?" So I did. And I was shocked because the SBDC, like many other organizations that are government funded, has no marketing budget, but they do amazing work. And I'm so proud to be a part of this team that helps businesses at any level. We're funded by SBA, and our host state for me is the state of Iowa. And our host is either a land grant college or community college. I'm hosted by a community college. And, you know, we're here to help you, whether it's a startup, expansion, or, you know, I want to do some business succession. And that's really what we're here for, is strictly to work with owners.
So I, as I said before, I am familiar with the SBDC. I actually hired one when I was the entrepreneur SBDC coach when I was the entrepreneur in residence. So for those people who aren't familiar with the SBDC, it is the Small Business Development Center, and their responsibility, folks like Todd have a responsibility for helping people with boots on the ground. So whereas the SCORE executives that we heard from a little bit earlier are there for mentoring, you really talk a little bit about the type of role that you play with your sort of boots on the ground to be able to help businesses like Dustin.
Well, you know, it's hard to put into words because it's all tailored. You know, it's custom to everybody's needs. When Dustin came to me, his needs were different than anybody I'd ever seen. I had never worked with anybody I had worked with inventors before, but not anybody who was inventing the type of products he was. The combination of his business, which he has a for-profit portion and then a nonprofit portion, that combination is kind of rare in Northwest Iowa. It's really, so I guess where I'm going with this is, it's kind of hard to put in a nutshell, because what do you need? We connect a lot of dots. I'm not an expert on anything hardly, but I know a lot of people who are experts. And we get you the help you need, whether it's financial and trying to navigate that, which I do mostly, or it's just, you know, you need someone who wants to come in and value your business before you decide you want to sell it. You know, what's it actually worth? And in between, it can be something as simple as, you know, what do you think about this idea? I have clients who've been with me for over 10 years, and they use me more as a sounding board than anything. My my job changes with the relationship over time, I guess. And that's what keeps it fresh. I love that.
Yeah. And I know a lot of the work that the SBDC coaches help with oftentimes is working with businesses to help secure additional funding or loans. And so looking in all the nooks and crannies for those folks who are listening, many of the SBDCs, not all of them, but most are affiliated with the local community college or university. And so approaching them also allows the opportunity to leverage some of the resources at the college, whether it's sometimes equipment or meeting rooms or a whole host of other ways that there can be synergies and working collaboratively. I know that the SBDC coach that I work with over at Eastern West Virginia Community and Technical College did a lot on the loans and actually helped a brewery expand by being able to qualify for additional funding. I was very happy, by the way, of that particular opportunity when we found out that happened. Dustin, tell us a little bit more about how you've engaged with the services of Todd and the SBDC, and how you found the SBDC useful in the context of your business.
Yeah, so for us, our business is very unique in this area. We don't do things very traditionally than most businesses. So when I first reached out and had a meeting with Todd, it was an interesting meeting, because at first, when you hear my ideas, it's like, well, this business ain't gonna make it very long or very far. But luckily Todd kind of stuck it out with me. And the best thing with Todd is he'll give you the answer that you need, not necessarily the answer you want, which is great for business. But he's been a great mentor all the way from starting. I had my business started before I met Todd, kind of. But we started from the beginning and made sure everything was in line. I had my business registered right, and we went through to make sure that it was the best way to do it and things like that. So he kind of took what we had and kind of restarted it and set us on the right path. And then just like Todd said, your relationship changes as your business grows.
So if we can walk through just the timeline, first of all, how did you hear about the SBDC? Remind me how you heard about them.
So I went to school that Todd's attached to for a little while. So I knew that they were there. So when I started my business and kind of got to a brick wall on my own, that's when I was like, well, I better reach out for some help and scheduled a meeting through their website.
Okay, and so even before you met Todd, you had this idea for a business to invent something. Walk us through how, like, even from the very beginning of that, because it's curious now. You have this idea for this business. You do a little bit of schooling here. You come into contact with Todd, and then he helps you with a lot of these different things. So just walk a little. You had this idea because a lot of people who are listening, and where we get a lot of interest is people who are actually probably a little envious of you. They have their inventors or their ideas, and they want to start a business. So walk us through that piece.
So our story kind of started with my son. He was born missing 97% of his brain. So he is very limited on his life activities. He plays baseball on a local organization. Well, as a parent, you want to watch your kids play sports. You don't want to play the sport for them. So we went to the drawing board. We invented this device that allows him to play baseball. He can swing a bat and throw a ball by just pressing a button with his head. And that product, when we put it online to just share what we did, got a lot of attention. And then people from all over the United States are like, I want one. Can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? So our business wasn't to start a business. We just made a product for our child that a lot of people liked. And then the requests for more technology just kind of grew and grew. And then that's where it snowballed into a business where I was spending more time doing this than I was actually at my real job at that time.
So you're like almost an accidental inventor and entrepreneur is what I'm hearing. And so
Yes.
you're like, oh man, I got this thing going on. I need a little bit more help here. Where do I go? And what do I do? Is that kind of what happened?
Yeah. So when I started the business, I had no intentions to start it. So there was no research in the beginning to see what I wanted to do, if the market was even right or this or that. It was just, I just dove in head first.
Yeah, like a lot of entrepreneurs that we know. And so Todd, then he comes to the table and comes knocking on your door and says, "Hey, listen, I've got this thing going on." What was your reaction?
Amazing. Actually amazing. Most inventors I see haven't even reached the prototype stage, and he was well beyond that. And he just needed a little guidance. He's a Marine, and well, you're never an ex-Marine. He's a Marine, and that can-do attitude just carried through with everything he did. He didn't let the speed bumps he was running into stop him from achieving success, I feel. He's had struggles. I mean, it has not been easy by any means, and yet he perseveres. And I think that's one thing I think you find with most entrepreneurs. They have a drive that they're not going to let anything stop them. They'll figure it out one way or another. And I'm thankful that I can just be along and be part of the deal, right?
Yeah, I can imagine, both of you as veterans, well, you got, a lot of common language there to be able to talk about it. But then also, I would imagine for you, when you go ahead and, but by the way, thank you both for your service to the country. The ability to be able to go ahead and then work on a business that is so significant and has meaning for people all across the country. It just must be profoundly inspiring for you, Todd, to be able to go ahead and work on that type of a business.
Yeah, for sure. There's no doubt. And Dustin's family is just amazing. The wonderful thing about our area is we have a lot of activities going on for entrepreneurs, and there's a lot of support isn't that cool? There's
really cool stuff.
Yeah. And to meet his family, to see the love they have for each other, and to see what drives him, how can you not want to help with that? It's just part of being a decent human being, I guess, is that you want to get behind somebody like Dustin and help them in any way you possibly can.
Yeah. So it sounds like so at the very beginning, he came to you. Walk us through how that, because you both mentioned that the relationship has changed over time. So Todd, take a moment to just share with us, like, from that beginning relationship, how you were able to go ahead and provide guidance, maybe connections and some of those introductions, and how that has changed over time.
I think, Holly, I look back and I think so much. I mean, because I was going through our notes and I was like, oh my God, what have you done? He really did come in as a startup. He faced all the challenges people have, whether it was help or whether it was financing. He's been blessed to win several competitions. He's a great presenter. He's received some funding. We have a couple of guys here in Northwest Iowa, or actually from our state office, who help find locations. And one of our men, Ray Hansen, was trying to help him find a location. There's a lot of parts of it, but I'm going to be honest. I consider Dustin a friend now. I don't consider him a client. And for me, I think as our relationship grows, it's not about me being an SBDC director. It's more about me having a friend who may need some of my help just because he doesn't have the answers at that moment.
Right. And the wonderful thing about being an SBDC coach is not only what you're able to give, but also what you're able to get, right? The unexpected type of business where you're going ahead and you get to go ahead and kind of sit there with pride and look at Dustin and say, look, I'm helping this thing. I'm helping this grow. And not only am I helping, Dustin, but I'm helping people all across the United States. I feel there's a sense of pride and kindred spiritness with the ability to go ahead and look at a business like Dustin's and say, you know what, I'm able to go ahead and have this, this national or potentially even global reach to be able to be there alongside. And Dustin, for you, I would imagine being able to tap into somebody like Todd and say, listen, I need some help with this. And then Todd goes off and is able to go ahead and bring maybe a resource or introduction or other folks to the table. I imagine that's really invaluable for somebody like you.
That is probably the biggest resource that we've received so far as a business is those connections and those resources that have started from Todd and those that he's connected me with. Because, our business is unique. So we've kind of made Todd really dig deep and kind of help find us some resources and things that fit our needs. And he did really well on that. And, the best thing about Todd too is even if it's not a SBDC event, there could be another business event in our community or right now throughout the state, and I'll go to it and there's Todd. He makes sure that he stays up on his knowledge and things as well.
Yeah. And the second best thing about Todd, and Jack mentioned this before, is that he doesn't charge you anything. So this is all free, right?
That's the biggest blessing.
Right? I mean, Jack mentioned this before, right? He comes to the table. He's not taking a business owner interest in this. He has unsolicited and unbiased advice on how you can go ahead and grow that business. We heard this a little bit with the SCORE mentors, but Todd is actually in your community. And that's the difference between the SCORE mentors and the SBDC coaches. The wonderful thing is that you're able to tap into this guy. And Todd, I bet you don't have a degree in psychology, but I bet you've learned a lot about psychology and working as an SBDC coach, right?
Yeah, you could say that. I can't share too much on that end, but I know it's so exhilarating to be around owners who are doing things.
Yeah.
And I don't mean just, something little. Every business, even though no matter what size it is doing things that are important in the community, whether they know it or not. They're touching lives that they have no clue what they're doing. I mean, Dustin has shipping all over America. I mean, are you shipping foreign? Are you doing international sales yet?
We've got 2 that we're working on.
Woohoo!
So he's moving beyond my ability to help him. But I'm going to stay his friend for as long as I can. I can't express enough what a thrill it is to see somebody succeed and to watch Dustin from startup to testifying before Congress this fall for veteran-owned businesses. It's just, to me, it's exciting, it's exhilarating, and I guess I'm an adrenaline junkie because it gives me a great rush of adrenaline to do that. So
sorry, go ahead, Dustin, please.
What the nice thing about SBDC being community based, especially around where I'm at, is I've done a lot of different programs via Zoom, and Zoom's a great asset for businesses. But I like to be that face-to-face, sit there, have a cup of coffee and have a discussion type thing. So that's what I liked most about having something located community-wise.
Sure. And Todd, I'm going to speak for you just for a second here as a former coach and mentor. I've done a lot of that. I've sort of hung up my hat on that and don't do that anymore. But, you're really there both on a technical level and helping, with, what kinds of spreadsheets and, the ins and the outs of accounting and HR and those sorts of things. But then you're also there for on the other side where, this is sort of an emotional support and, hey, listen, walk back. I know it was a bad day or this didn't come through, but look at the larger picture. And so you're able there to provide a lot of perspective to be able to say, no, Dustin, I know it was a bad day or this didn't work out, but you got to go ahead and stay in this. I'm here shoulder to shoulder to support you. And Dustin, you're probably like, man, I needed to hear that. I was having a bad day. I got, kicked in the teeth today by a client or something that didn't happen. I'm not going to speak for you, but when in my experience, that was some of the pieces of the relationships that I had the opportunity to work with that were usually fair. The technical side of things is one thing, but that face-to-face cup of coffee where you're like, man, I just don't know how I'm going to go ahead and, figure all this stuff out. Would you agree with that, Dustin?
Yes, and that's the best thing and the nice thing with these mentors like Todd is when we do have these conversations and he brings resources or is like, hey, this would have been great for your business, but reality of it, it's not going to work for you type thing. But he's like, but we'll stick it out together and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So it's not just the delivering the bad news or whatever. They're there to, all right, it may be rough now, but let's get through it. We'll figure it out and see what our next step is.
Yeah, and able to see sort of the light on the other side of the tunnel, right? And be able to say, all right, Dustin, we're going to get through this. Here's some challenges. Here's some also resources that we can help bring to the table. All right, I'm going to ask you guys both the same question here because we're going to be coming up here on our time just a second. Dustin, if you were speaking to an entrepreneur who is in your same position, okay, just starting out, just trying to figure out, what recommendations would you make? What would you suggest in terms of how best to go ahead and work with somebody like Todd over at the SBDC, at America's SBDC? What's one or two tips or tricks that you would go ahead and recommend to a fellow entrepreneur?
The biggest thing is it's never too late to reach out and start the conversation with them. So even if you don't have a registered business or have all your ducks in a row, that's probably the best time to reach out to get things ironed out, sorted out, and have those tough conversations right away. And then the other biggest thing is once you get started and get going and things feel like they're on the right path, don't stop reaching out to them and don't kind of let them fall to the wayside. Keep in touch, keep updated with them. Because then just like Todd, he'll send me an email and he'd be like, hey, I came across this. Might be helpful, might not, but here you go. So that way you're both on the same page.
Great advice. So wherever you are in your business, for anybody who's listening to this today or via the recording, wherever you are along your business cycle, is a good time to engage with your local SBDC coach because, it's free, it's impartial, and they can help you go ahead and connect with other business opportunities. Todd, same question for you. Somebody like Dustin, what's one or two pieces of advice that you would go ahead and give to somebody like Dustin in terms of engaging with the SBDC?
That's a really good question. I would say be humble. It took a lot of humility for Dustin as a Marine to say he didn't have all the answers and to come in and seek some help. I've had a business failure. I figured I could do it on my own. Well, that didn't work. So be humble, be willing to at least have an open mind because there are things both of us won't know until we start exploring and digging and finding answers. And just because there's a speed bump doesn't mean it's the end of the day. We'll find a way. If it can be done, we'll figure it out. And that's pretty much where I'm at, I guess.
Great advice. Dustin's saying, hey, listen, you know what? Just get started, bring in the coach. And the coach is saying, be coachable, right? Be coachable, man. Come to the table and allow us to go ahead and help you help yourself. And, come with a sense of humility that, what, things are going to get messed up. Things aren't going to go right, all the time. The world is changing every day. So, what's right today may not be the right tomorrow. I want to go ahead and throw it over to Jack, see if you have any additional comments or Amber.
No, we have one question in the chat, and I know we're going to transition, but ISO was just asking if the VA assisted in any way for services to help Dustin as a veteran as well. So Dustin or Todd, I don't know if you would even be willing to type an answer and if there were any services provided, just in keeping in mind the transition, but just absolutely incredible story. I mean, I've been geeking over your website since you started talking. So absolutely incredible. And just want to say, like, what a powerful story for everyone on the call. So if you all don't mind weighing in on that, I'll go ahead and say that you'll type an answer in, and then we'll transition to our next one.
Yeah, if I can, quick 30 seconds to answer some other questions that popped up and really inspired by both these gentlemen. So because of Dustin's awesome work, there is a huge part of the marketplace, special needs clients, neurodiversity. Somebody had asked about this, right? Not enough services, specialized equipment, and other things. We can think of some VA partners, a friend who's a father built something for his son who had mobility impairments. He later on sold that to the VA because our military heroes who had some mobility issues. So huge market. And then for our entrepreneurs who may have some special needs, Todd and all of our mentors, we support in providing them with assistance if somebody needs a non-English language mentoring or transcription, or if you have a mobility impairment and want to go visit Todd, we will make sure as the federal government, we have handicap accessible ramps and other things in facilities. So we're blowing away any excuse or any limitation that may have thwarted people in the past. So please pursue that. We will make special accommodations. It's our duty and our honor to do so. So thank you all for that. And Todd and Dustin, thanks for dialing. You guys inspire everybody with your efforts, your creativity. And Todd, thanks for mentioning the friendship. I do want to mention the mentors don't kick you out after 4 hours, right? They're going to stay engaged with you and that stuff. We are not asking them to become a lifetime partner of yours, but quite often they stay in contact and will provide assistance to you throughout the multiple cycles because we want your business to grow, as do they. Thanks, guys, for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Great. Hey, Jack, do you want to go ahead and help us segue into the next conversation? I see some folks from the SBA jumping on board here. What a great inspirational conversation that really was. Thank you, Jack. Please feel free.
Great. Yeah. Well, just to sort of level set here, we've got I'm seeing new icons pop up here. So we've got our next set of presenters. Just as a quick recap, we opened up the day with our leadership from our entrepreneurial development and government contracting teams talking about public procurement opportunities and what the federal government is doing to make sure small businesses are ready or have access to these opportunities. We talked a little bit with our SCORE mentors and clients, talking about their unique relationships out there. The SBA staff talked about our national networks and how one can dial in to this. Obviously, our small business development centers who are spread across the United States and tap into a lot of resources. One thing I should have mentioned too, regardless of the organization, especially these local communities, they will sit down with you and make an introduction. If they've got you as far as they can because of their expertise or their unique services, they're going to connect you with the next part of the puzzle. Again, they're not going to make you an expert in all these organizations. They're just going to say, oh, I know a man or a woman who's a great connection for you because now you're going to start exporting or now you're going to start doing something else. It may not be my expertise as a mentor, but I'm going to facilitate that introduction. This is a great example that we're going to talk about right now. The international markets are a huge opportunity for American small businesses. The administration, the state government organizations, the economic developers and mentors across the United States want to make sure people are aware of the opportunity, any of the requirements, and if somebody's currently in that marketplace, how to really capture clients from across the globe. The American entrepreneur is providing so much resources that are valued across multiple nations, and we want to make sure whether it's sourcing, partnering, or selling abroad, that people have that technical expertise. So with that, next up are SBA affiliated mentors and clients that have really sort of built that relationship to talk about global markets. So I'll hand that over to them for a quick self-introduction and then walk us through, and I know Joe and Amber are going to facilitate as well, a little bit of the storytelling of how was the introduction made? Was there anything sort of that was needed up front before the relationship really built based on the business owner's needs and what he or she sort of was pursuing? But with that, let me hand it over to our presenters. Thanks again for joining us during National Entrepreneurship Week.
Hi, thanks, Jack.
Yeah, quick reminder for all the presenters to unmute themselves. Sorry, go ahead.
No worries. My name is Bradine. I work here for the Texas Department of Agriculture, and I facilitate the STEP program for Texas, and that's the State Trade Expansion Program. So we are able to fund missions to other countries or aid in your export goals if that's something that you're looking into, whether you're new to export or you're expanding your market. I know we want to keep it really conversational, and I want you guys to hear from the actual businesses that use STEP. So I'm going to keep it really brief. We do have an application open. If you are here in Texas on the call, happen to be listening, and you're a small business wanting to know more or wanting to know if you qualify, of course, just reach out to Texas STEP, texasagriculture.gov, and I'll be able to help you guys. You would get to me first. You just have to be a small business. You have to be thinking about exporting or already exporting, and you also have had to have been in business for less than a year in order to be eligible. That application closes at the end of this month. So if you guys are interested at all in what you hear from us today, you can reach out to me at any time and I can help you through that application process. Or even if you just don't know if you're eligible or not, I can help you kind of figure out eligibility. I'm going to pass it on to Kristen, who is from one of our STEP partners with Madrid. She'll talk a little bit about her business. And yeah, go ahead, Kristen. Thank you.
Sure. Wonderful. Well, thank you all for having us. Thank you, Bradine, for the introduction. So real quick, my name is Kristen. I manage the international business of Metadyne Healthcare Products. Metadyne is a family-owned business, started in 1998. We're located in Texas. We specialize in the development and manufacturing of sports medical products. That includes everything from orthopedic to physical therapy to rehabilitation products. And we are lucky that our products are being recommended and sold in over 70 countries worldwide. So, of course, none of this happened overnight. And especially for a small family-owned business, you know, that it takes a certain mindset. But here to talk about it today and answer any questions anyone has about, you know, expansion and how to go abroad and what resources are out there. So again, thanks for having us.
Thank you, Kristen.
Okay.
Hi all, I'm Taco. I'm from the Stroop Club. We moved to Austin, Texas in 2015, and I'm originally from the Netherlands, and we wanted to bring a product from the Netherlands to the United States and get to know how the business works in the US and introduce people to our delicious product. So we started off in 2015 at the farmers market in Austin, Texas, and we started selling Dutch stroopwafels and Dutch stroopwafel syrups. So it's a sugar syrup favorite, like the traditional Dutch cookie called a stroopwafel. And it really caught on in a lot of coffee shops and specialty retail stores in the Texas area started carrying our products. And then since 2015, we've been expanding all across the United States. The HB is now carrying our stroopwafel syrup all across Texas. And we decided to, like about 2 years ago, to start looking at exporting our products to Canada and the UK and even back to the Netherlands. So we've been looking around for resources to help us exporting our products, and that's how we got to do the STEP program.
Let me ask real quick, just because it came up in a previous session, and sometimes entrepreneurs think you always nail it on your first effort. Are both of you all serial entrepreneurs? Is this your fourth or fifth effort? We just want to sort of be realistic with folks. None of us are perfect in that stuff. Just for level setting, I know we're going to talk about your current business endeavors, but are both of you all former teenage entrepreneurs that just kind of always had that in your system, by the way?
So for my part, actually no. So I come from the corporate side. I used to work for Bosch in Germany. I'm a German national. but you lived in Texas for more than 10 years and still always working for a company. So although I work for a international SBDC as well, so I love working with entrepreneurs. I myself have not been one, but obviously Tacos is all the opposite.
No, because like I used to work as an economist for the Dutch federal government back in Holland, maybe mostly reviewing other businesses and looking at them. So this was my first venture, but it's been a great adventure.
Got it. Thanks for sort of setting that up for us. So segueing and pulling you all in there. So you have businesses, you know, you want to sort of expand. You might have weighed options between business consultants, other options, maybe people you saw on the web that you might provide services. So how was it? Was it web? Was it an outreach event that you got exposed to our partners with the STEP, which is a state level exporting program? How did you, was it a flyer? Was it a Facebook ad? How did this now come across your radar? And why did you make that action to click, call, or reach out?
Yeah, in our case, when we wanted to go exporting, we reached out to people we knew that had maybe more information and tips and tricks on how to do it. So we got to the University of Texas International Trade Center, and we got introduced to a coach there that helped us. And actually, that coach referred us to the STEP program. He said, "Well, try this out, and maybe it can help you get started."
Similar for us, so we've been working with the local USAC office, so that's the U.S. Export Assistance Center, which is a part of the Department of Commerce. So we've always, as long as the company existed, we've been working with them and using the resources, and always kind of relied on their expertise and on their programs. And I guess in 2018, it was the first time that the local USAC shared with us the information that there's a new program, which is called the STEP grant, that's being made available through the Texas Department of Agriculture. And that's how we got introduced to it.
Great. And from the Texas department, you all are doing a lot of outreach, promotion, and workshops, just like our entrepreneurs are always seeking clients. You all are seeking clients. So you receive that phone call or an email solicitation. Walk us through there. Is there an intake process, or how do you get to know these business owners and entrepreneurs and their unique needs, and how you may be the proper place for them for business coaching?
Right. So we're a fairly new program, like Kristen mentioned. We have taken over from the governor's office. They didn't have the bandwidth to be able to house the STEP program. So we get a lot of people that are like, agriculture, oh, I don't qualify. And we're like, no, we're not industry agnostic. As you can see with Kristen and Taco, it's not agriculture-based consumers, which we do have a few of those also that are exporting, but it's not industry agnostic. So we usually get most of our referrals from SBDCs, which I love that you were mentioning that on the last call too, because that's one of our biggest partners. We get our referrals from SBDCs, and most of the time in form of email or a phone call, but our applications are only open once a year. It's usually in the beginning of the year. So if somebody will email in June or July, we'll usually get all of their eligibility information, get them signed up to get our email notifications for when STEP is open, and then kind of just get them started on thinking about what they would want to use the funds for, making sure that they have a really strong proposal, and then just getting them ready for that application cycle. So we'll be able to walk them through the entire application cycle, make sure that their proposal looks good, make sure that when our reviewers look at their application, that they'll want to give that $10,000 of STEP to aid their export goals.
Got it. And then when you're engaging with the small business owners, you have the eligibility. Do you do a one-on-one consultation? You require them to come in? Is it all sort of Zoom or digital based? How do you, once you have the requirements, we all have paperwork and forms, right? Just to make sure, we understand people on the surface level, but, building a relationship, is that a phone call or at their convenience, or is it a mass orientation? Was as a potential client that has submitted my paperwork and I've sort of met the base criteria, what should I expect next, and what was their experience? And I'll ask our entrepreneurs too, once you got the confirmation back or the invitation, did you think about skipping it, or you're like, no, I need this assistance? But I'll ask you to say, once they meet that threshold of submitting the information, then what do they get? An invitation or a consultation?
Right. So we rely on our partners to do the vetting, like USIAC and SBDC. If they refer a client to us or a company to us, we kind of trust that they have vetted that company and made sure that they are ready to take the next step, which is exporting. Since we are not the economic development agency here in Texas, we're just an agency that kind of houses the grant. We help them with their grant side of it. So we help them with most of the technical stuff. And then also if they have any questions on, can I do this, or who can help me with this, or, is export research tool something that I can use to spend the money with, we're able to, email and let them know, reach out to this person or try US Commercial Services if you want gold key matching, stuff like that. So we rely heavily on our partnerships with other agencies in order to help these entrepreneurs get to where they need to, because here in our agency, we can't really do much of that.
Got it. And Kristen and Taco, now a new set of people are introduced to you. You're getting calls from other people. Or are you working with your existing mentors, whether it's with the SBDC or other access point? What's that experience now that you're going to get some support from some federal state-backed program? I'm just playing it up a little bit as sort of, you're an entrepreneur that's got a ton of other things to do, but now you have access to this resource. What's going through your head? A, do you believe it? Or do you think it might be a scam? B, do you trust it because you were referred to it? What's going through your mind at this point?
So it's a very easy question to answer, because really when you work with Bordine, you have the opportunity, or you're applying for a program that will give you $10,000, and you're not going to skip that. So if you've made the decision to fill out the paperwork, to go through the process of the application, which of course it does require some paperwork, which is not fun. But again, it's not like $500 or $1,000 or $1,500. At the end of the day, you are pitching to the STEP program all these things you want to do to help your export activities, and for that program, for those programs, you're getting reimbursed $10,000. So you're spending more, but you're getting $10,000 reimbursed. And for us, again, since we've always worked with the local USAC or SBA offices, and they recommended the program to us, and it's housed, in Austin at the it used to be at the governor's office. So it's pretty official. I mean, there was no question about, okay, can we trust this deal? Is this a scam, or is this the real thing? It's the real deal. And she mentioned earlier as well, you have to be in business for at least 1 year before you can apply to a program like this, because you do have to have your ducks a little bit in a row already. You can't be like not really sure what you're doing on the US side before you start exporting. Really, exporting is the second step. So the first thing is know your domestic market, get some type of customer base there, get your experience in, know what the demands are in the market because it only gets more complicated after that. So the US, that's the prime market. You want to start there, and then you can take the next step.
And Taco, again, what's going through your head initially when you're in this process, but again, now it's becoming real? What's going through your head? I think you're unmuted, buddy. Yeah.
Yes, I'd like to add to that exactly that the STEP program, everyone involved has been super helpful, guiding us through the process and make it accessible for everyone. As Christine mentioned, the funds are available to help you set up that export, but then you also need to actually go do it. And I think that's what currently is like the most work for it for us, because we are selling a food product. I think it's same for medical the medical field, but there's a lot of regulations and involved in exporting those products. For example, if you want to sell our products in the UK or in the EU, all the labeling requirements are different. Organic certification has specific rules, so we needed to invest a lot of time, and with the help of the STEP grant, we could to get advice on that and meet people and connect with people and find the right people that can help you. And that's also how it started for us in the US, because we started from scratch. When we got here, we didn't know anyone in Austin, Texas. And in the end, it's all about who you meet, who can advise you, the references by Texas Agriculture, all those tips and tricks.
Got it. Ray, Dean, along this path, are you maintaining a client portfolio to monitor that they're sort of hitting their marks with their unique outreach efforts and those things? Is a case manager touching base with them, or is the hotline available if a wrinkle comes up in their plan that they can reach out? What's going on the sort of back end as you're providing service to them?
Yeah, so this with it being small businesses, I do a lot of hand holding. So with Kristen and with Taco, they've had STEP before. So it's not necessarily they know more of the technical stuff. It's more so, this is not working out. Can I change my scope? And it's, yeah, we're allowed to do that throughout the year. We have performance reports at 30 days, at 6 months, at 12 months throughout your project to kind of see if you're on track, if you need to change anything. SBA also requires that we report on return on investment. So we're able to see if this export activity yielded you any sales. And we know as small businesses, sometimes you won't see the sales for 2 years later if you went to a trade mission. We know that it takes a long time. So it's not necessarily to, harp on you haven't made any sales and we gave you $10,000. It's more so we can all see your progress together. You can come back to it. You can look at it. You can see how much this program has actually helped you. If you want to apply again next year. It brings me to a lot of the time, the first time that people have STEP, they don't really know what to do with the money until they've already gone through, they've spent their $10,000 and they're like, wait, I probably shouldn't have used it on that trade show because there were no customers there that actually wanted my product. So now next year, they're able to look at all of their performance reports. They have that relationship with me. We're talking about it. And we're like, maybe this year you shouldn't go to that trade show again. You should use this money for X, Y, and Z. Maybe you should use it for export research tools so you can see the market that your product would be a better fit in. So we're able to have that relationship with them over the course of X amount of years, and we keep all of our records. They can look at their previous records as well on our online grants management system. They're able to see what they spent their money on last year, the return on the investment on those activities, and how they want to tweak it for the next year.
Got it. And I know we had Sarah from the SBA's Office of International Trade that works with colleagues that support the STEP program. And I know you all as professionals do some best practices in sharing. So folks across the states that are supporting this can generate those additional ideas, or we can monitor markets globally. There's some specialized databases in those things I know they can access, which can get pricey for individual entrepreneurs. But if you're in the STEP program or the UZAX or some of our SBDCs, you can have access to that as well, which is awesome. To pivot a little bit, sort of, we probably have part of an audience who may not be exporting or may just have one strategic partner, perhaps with Canada or what have you, especially Kristen and Taco. If somebody's not thinking globally, again, in addition to or aside from the STEP assistance, what goes through an entrepreneur's mind? Is it just because sales are low, I should look at other markets, or your service or product might have potential? What are those things you need to tell our entrepreneurs in the audience about thinking globally? You might have, you might be semi-comfortable with the domestic market. Should you feel guilty that you're not growing to global markets, or what do you guys share aside from those of us, at the federal or state level, but in entrepreneurial communities that you want to share with entrepreneurs that probably have untapped market?
Taco, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I think it's anyone should make their own business decisions, what suits them best. I think Kristen made a really good point, is that before you think about starting to exporting, have your ducks in a row in the US, because it will add a lot of extra potential complexity to it. So you need to make sure you have all your, in our case, like the shipping, the paperwork, the production, everything in order to be able to go start exporting. And in our case, it was kind of special because we have a plant-based product. And we just figured, like, who else in the world loves syrups and cookies? Well, Canadians, obviously, we can compete with the maple syrup. And also in the UK, the plant-based market is big. So we decided to focus on those two countries first. We went with the STEP grants to a trade show, to the World Plant-Based Expo, and like before starting to invest a lot in all the other things, like go there, take your products, talk to people, also build connections there with the local government and with potential distributors and consumers to test it out if it would be good. And then at some point you just need to go for it, and you're going to run into problems along the way, but there's all these resources that can help you, and you can just fix things along the way and go from there.
Very true. So what I would want to add is an easy way to start, or I know a lot of people or businesses, how they end up being international or having international partners, is just purely by attending US-based trade shows. You know, whatever market you're in, and you decide, you know, it's orthopedics or it's food or it's whatever, but to showcase your product even locally, you go to a local trade show or some kind of industry event. And because the United States is considered such an innovative market with such, you know, wide ranges of innovative products, it draws in a lot of attention from just, you know, people all around the world. They tend to fly into trade shows that happen in the US. So even if a local entrepreneur doesn't even have the idea of shipping or selling something to Canada or, you know, to South Africa or Australia, wherever it might be, just by attending a local trade show, you might just happen upon opportunities where people say, hey, you know, again, I'm from South Africa and we really need this. This looks amazing. And I've actually seen you at another trade show and we thought about it and we really want to get started with you. And that's when, you know, the business has to make the decision and know really what the opportunity is, what the costs associated are, what resources it takes to make it happen, what kind of financing is needed, you know, all of these things. And that's how people happen to come upon international opportunities. If it's a strategic decision of somebody saying, okay, we're solid in the US, we kind of, you know, we've made our mark and we've kind of outgrown the market. At that point, it would be a strategic decision, and that's when, like Taco said, you would make the decision to go to a local trade show, meaning you choose a country that, based on your market research, fits the demands for your product. And that's when you choose, you know, based on those criteria, to go to France or wherever it might be and participate at a local show. And then you build your market up from that end. So those are normally the two ways it tends to happen.
Got it. A quick shout out to Joe and Amber. I know you've probably been, go ahead, Brittany.
I know we're running short on time, but you were mentioning SBDCs in the last session. They do export readiness assessments. I'm pretty sure USIAC does it as well, which is kind of like a risk assessment for a business that's wanting to export. You'll fill out your forms. They will actually, you know, score it and tell you how ready you are to export and what is the risk management for your business in a certain market, or if if you're established in domestic market, they can do those export readiness assessments with you. So you have a better idea if you have the capital or, you know, if you're ready to actually start exporting.
Great. Thank you for referencing those tools too. Those results of those don't go anywhere. They don't come to the federal government. You can take those tools. It's a self-assessment, just to get you a little bit more comfortable with your awareness. And I know Joe's going to introduce our next segment, but Kristen, you mentioned something quickly I saw in the chat. Any heads up about the world of finance when you start dealing internationally, you might be dealing with your local banker, when you're dealing with your state or your region. Anything people need to, you know, your banker that supported your domestic growth ready when you're going to go to, you know, abroad, or is that something that your STEP experience, your USAC and your SBDCs need to guide you through? What's been your experience on financing overseas growth?
I mean, itself is a huge topic, very complex, and it just largely depends on the industry. You know, if you need very elaborate tools like letters of finance or, you know, things like that. And there's yet another resource available for US businesses, which is the US Import-Export Bank, Exim Bank, I think it's called. So another great resource available. The first rule always is just get prepayment until you feel comfortable, until you've visited the company in local country, until you have other references. You just get prepayment for everything before you ship anything. Yeah, there's no other way around it. So you want to have a solid relationship before you offer any kind of terms to anyone.
Great.
That's it from my end on that.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing that we had issues with in the past, or at least you get a lot of like international customers reaching out to you over email, and they're like, oh yeah, we want to have your product, and we always make sure to at least cover most of the costs before shipping any actual product and like vetting your potential customers.
You know, Jack, what an interesting conversation here. I mean, you know, so many small businesses don't necessarily think that they have the ability to go ahead and do international import-export, and it's such a great, great eye-opening conversation on all of this. And I also want to just give a quick shout out to Stroopwafel. If you've never ever had Stroopwafel, it is really like, everybody should go ahead and have Stroopwafel at least once in their life. And if you have it once in your life, you'll never stop eating it. Those are fantastic. I love the fact that you're now exporting those back over to the Netherlands. How fantastic is that?
Yeah, exactly. And like an improved version, and together separate with the syrup, both of really nice. We bring it back to Holland.
We're doing it bigger, better here in the Stroopwafels. We're doing it bigger, better here in the United States. Wow, what an empowering conversation. Thank you so much, Berdine and Taco and Kristen and Jack as well. Really illuminating. Thank you so much for joining us today. And a great segue into some of the next conversation, where we're going to be talking about our veterans. You know, it's really interesting on the veteran side of things, because of the way that our veterans engage in the military. There's such a wonderful opportunity to start a business. And Jack, the SBA has fantastic programs and always been huge supporters of the military and the veterans. My own experience in working with veterans and having the opportunity to be able to understand that level of discipline and being able to understand what it takes to start and finish and stick with something and execute. Gosh, there's no group of people who are better suited to launch and start and build a successful business. So I know we have a couple of folks from your team who are focused on veterans and veterans businesses. Jack, do you want to share a little bit? You have a lot more insight into the inward workings of the veterans aspects of the SBA. You want to help shed some light on that?
Yeah, I'll be quick because we really do want to hear from Amy and Ray and their experiences. But Joe, thank you. Yes, Administrator Guzman, the administration, our agency, highly dedicated to working with our military and entrepreneurial communities. Like so many other things, it's you know, in partnership with others, multiple agencies, state organizations, economic development organizations, the military, entrepreneurial communities, which I get to hang out with once in a while, which is really inspiring. Are a ton of growing and innovative entrepreneurs out there that have military experience and wear the badge of heroism. So we're really proud of it. A lot of efforts going on with some special certifications, financing programs, access to contracts the team may talk about here. And just for Amy and Ray's benefit, I know they've got busy days. I had my buddy Ray Milano on a little bit earlier. He was bragging about the broad network and all the awesome work you all do. I'm not sure if my Ray is able to stay on, but he put the kudos and the thanks, which you have my thanks to for joining us this afternoon. We couldn't think of a better way to sort of close out our series of mentor and client discussions and the experiences that you all have. Thank you for your service and your innovation in the world of business. We're telling a story today during National Entrepreneurship Week about how entrepreneurs, whether they're just starting out or currently in business, have tapped into some of the resources in our broad network, which SBA is proud to support. But it's through partnerships and organizations that partner with states and other organizations as well. So we love the storytelling. And one thing we're really trying to do today, if you dialed in early, you heard other folks talk about the practical world of it. Did folks sort of think about coaching before but avoided it? Did they have a previous bad experience before they got with a great mentor or coach? Were they a classroom learner before they decided on one-on-one and that sort of story? Because we do have other entrepreneurs that have not taken that step yet. So we thought best to hear from folks like you all that have a successful partnership to drive business success. But with that, Amy and Ray, I'll leave it to you all to do a bit of a self-introduction, get the conversation going. I think my buddy Joe is going to chime in once in a while just to make sure that we're hitting some highlights to tell your story as best as you can. But thank you again for joining us. Amy, let me hand it over to you first to do a self-introduction and then introduce your client and I suspect friend, Ray, that you've partnered with to drive business success.
Yes, thank you, Jack, and happy National Entrepreneurship Week, everyone. Such a pleasure to be here. My name is Amy Amoroso. I am the director of one of the 28 VBOCs across our country, serving here in Region 2, covering the states of New York, New Jersey, Puerto Rico, and the USVI. I've been with the SBA family for, I'm going to say, over 25 years and leave it at that. That's over a quarter of a century engaging in business consulting. I was with an SBDC prior to taking over this VBOC role as director a little over 10 plus years ago. But it's been my pleasure. I am a military spouse. My husband is a Marine, so I served along the Marine Corps for about 25 plus years now as well. Family deployments and family readiness, pre and post yellow ribbons. So it's been an honor just to serve alongside my husband and of course helping our veterans, military spouses, and our service members transitioning into their next role or next phase of life of entrepreneurship. So it's just such a pleasure and heartful for me, humbling just to come in here and help our veterans and their families succeed. So it's a great honor. And of course, I do have Ray Gagnon here. He has such a great story. And as Jack stated, yes, he is now a friend, and we've been friends and mentors / clients for over 10 years. I know I keep putting these years in there, but I think there's value in that. Ray started, and he'll tell you, I think, as a very small child on a worm farm, as an entrepreneur, and has just grown and scaled leaps and bounds where he is today, a multi-million-dollar company, and has several businesses under his hat. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you, Mr. Ray Gagnon.
Ray, I don't have much to.
There you go.
Am I muted?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Nope,
Now.
You're good.
So after that introduction, I don't think I have much to say. I'm a retired Marine. I'm a Marine Master Gunnery Sergeant. I spent 25 years in the Marine Corps. I've opened and closed many businesses throughout my career in my entrepreneurial career. As Amy alluded to, I like to tell the story that my very first business was I picked worms off my father's yard and sold them to the fishermen on their way to the lake. And she's heard the story 1,000 times, but everyone always challenges me on that and says, well, that's really not a business. That's real more like a childhood hobby. And I said, well, yeah, then you didn't know my father, who was also an entrepreneur. And, my father charged me a fee for every worm that I sold. He charged me for the space that I used to house my worms in the ground. He charged me for a board that I pulled off the old barn and put up a sign for my marketing downtown. And I have had a revenue generating business since I was 6 years old. So from my worm farm, my bait and tackle shop, that turned into a bait and tackle shop, which then turned into, I had a service business when I was a teenager, and then I got into multiple different industries. Then I went in the Marine Corps, and even on active duty, I spent 25 years on active duty. Even on active duty, my wife and I always had a side business. I know the younger folks nowadays call them side hustles. But they definitely revenue generating side business. So I'm what you would call a serial entrepreneur. And as Amy said, I've opened, I started and opened and created many businesses. But the reason her and I actually got together was after we met was because the business that I opened the first one I opened under her tutelage, you know, I wanted to do it right. I didn't want to just throw it together and go the way Ray always did, was just run off half-cocked and just figure it out as I go. I wanted to have a plan. I wanted to have structure. I wanted to do it right. And Amy was definitely the person to go to. So that's what brings me here today. What do you want to know next?
That's great. It's really interesting. I guess, Amy, first of all, talk a little bit more about the V-Box and kind of the services that they provide, and then sort of how you guys have sort of, you know, co-created. I like to call it co-creation. How you guys have co-created along the way.
Yes, thank you for that. So the VBOC, just Veteran Business Outreach Center, what the acronym stands for. We're here to help our military spouses, members, service members that are still serving in the Guard and Reserve. So any military family, any member of the service can come to our office to receive that counseling, just like an SBDC, a Women Business Center, and a SCORE mentor, where we kind of signify and just hone in on our veterans and their families. What we try to do is create this foundation for our veterans. And it's not just the V-Box. We try to pull in a full fundamental group, you know, of our SBDCs and our SCOREs and our Women Business Centers. So we really try to navigate through the waters of entrepreneurship. One of my biggest saying is, you know, it takes a village to raise an entrepreneur. So SBA has tons of resources out there, and it would, you know, just behoove me not to at least acknowledge all the rest. Of course, I was an SBDC advisor prior, and I know all of the responses, even with the SBA international team here. You know, SBA has a ton of resources. So we do try to fill that need with our veterans, you know, sitting down, talking to them, finding out what that best next step is, and fulfilling that, whether it's in our center or utilizing another resource. You know, that's what we're here to kind of fulfill. I think Ray Milano had mentioned a little bit earlier today of our Boots to Business classes and our reboot classes. So we really do try to hone in on first the transitioning service members that are transitioning from the military back into civilian life. And that's our Boots to Business program. VBOX across the country teach those at these military installations that are transitioning. And then we have something called our Boots to Business Reboot program, which is open to every veteran and military family that is out there, as well as military spouses. So we do have a program specifically geared towards them as well. And, you know, so we try to hone in and try to bring a lot of resources together for our veterans, just to have that synergy. You know, I'm director of a huge territory, right? New York, New Jersey, Puerto Rico, and the USVI. I don't know everything in the economic scope and the values that are there. So we really try to bring the team together to bring that best foot forward for our veterans.
That's great. And I'd be curious, Ray, your thoughts on, you know, being a veteran, both what does that look like for other veterans who are out there thinking about starting a business? And then, you know, what are your thoughts or advice on them in terms of reaching out to the SBA and to folks like Amy who can support their business?
So I recommend Amy and her team everywhere I go. And I unequivocally have since I've experienced their services. You know, I met Amy, as she said, it's been over 10 years now. I met her not originally by seeking her out for the services. I met her at other veteran functions in the area. I retired from the Marine Corps, and I had started up my first training consulting business, my first training consulting business since I got out. And I had joined an organization called UMAC, Unified Military Affairs Council, and Amy was a member there. She was a council member, and I joined as a council member, and I met her first there. Then, as I went to different trainings that people had and organizations had for veterans in the area. I went to veteran events. You know, you go everything veteran, and you know, everything veteran business community, and every single one Amy was at. Every single time I turn around, there's Amy Amorosa. So I'm like, okay, I want to find out what it is she does. So I forget exactly what event it was, but I sat and I picked her brain as to what she did. And when I realized the service, I realized, okay, I could have used her services when I first retired and started my first training consulting business, because I jackhammered that thing. I mean, what I mean by that is I put it together, I launched it, and it didn't do anything, and it took a couple of years for me to get it off the ground because of the way I started and because of the things that I had not done. when I sought out, so then when I got my opportunity to start my junk business, my J-Dog junk business, I actually sought out Amy because now I knew what she did, right? I knew that everywhere I turned when it came to veterans, she walked her talk. She was there, always talking to veterans, always talking, about how to support veterans. And so what I did was when my J-Dog opportunity came along, I had no hesitation. I went right to Amy and I said, listen, I want to do this one right. I want to do a proper business plan. I'd never done one. I figured out plans as I went, right? With all my other businesses, I ended up with a business plan whenever I tried to get money from somebody. I put something together, but I had no idea what I was doing. So Amy and her team walked me through everything from step-by-step business planning and doing my business plan all the way through startup, all the way through, SBA funding, if I needed loans. And then we continued on, and I picked her brain for years after. I still pick her brain all the time. Years after, went through our 3 to 5 to 10 year projections and taught me how to properly do all that, right? I was an entrepreneur. Like I said, I've been an entrepreneur. I've been a revenue generating business since I was 6, and I always flew by the seat of my pants, meaning I always made it up as I went along, and I had no idea how to put things together, right, properly, if you will. And with Amy's expertise, it was it was a night and day experience for me. I couldn't believe how smooth my launch went for my junk business. And to this day, what was that in 2000? I want to say it was 2015, 14 or 15 when we actually created that plan and sat down and figured all that out. And now you fast forward, right? And as Amy said, now you fast forward, and that's a multi-million-dollar brand, right? And so everywhere I go, I recommend the VBOC, the VBOC, and Amy and her team are just off the charts. I can't say enough about them. They're just, and as you see, I've got my brand up behind me. I'm up at my cabin, so I've got a background. But the Chaos Coach is my new brand, and I'm constantly picking Amy's brain on the techniques and tactics, and I attend her trainings. I'll try to sit in on any when she has a coffee. What's it called? I think Coffee with Amy, where she gives out advice to veteran business owners who just sign into the Zoom meeting and we just talk. Anything and everything that I've ever needed, Amy and her team have always been there. They've always been accessible, and that makes a difference. It makes a huge difference. Especially, I'm a veteran business owner who has started businesses both ways, by myself, alone, figuring it out, and with the professional help of the VBOC and Amy's team, and it's been night and day.
That's great, Jack. I think you might want to your question.
Yeah, I was monitoring a little bit of the chat on the back end. And Ray, you kind of answered a question that somebody had posed, but let me reframe it for both you and Amy. So, Ray, it sounds like you came in an organized fashion. You knew Amy, you had seen her and things like that, and you kind of assessed what services she and the VBOC could provide. Amy, is that typical? Do people come in saying, I'm starting from scratch, or do people come in with 2 pain points? I don't know how to hire people. I'm terrible with accounting. What's typical?
Yeah, I'm going to say it's across the board. So typical is, really just your idea coming in. A lot of startups, but then a lot of individuals that are coming in that are kind of have an idea of what they want to do, but are stuck. They don't know what that next step is, or maybe there's a fear of asking what that next step is, So we try to allow that opportunity for them just to come in and talk. Let us know what it is that you want to do so we can best fit that need. Transitioning out, going in, a lot of veterans and their families have a hard time asking for help because they just don't know where to go. And I think that happens with a lot of entrepreneurs. I can do it. I don't need the help, or I can Google this and do that. But really, when you sit down and find out exactly where their heart is and where they want to go, that's the topic of conversation. So it's really just kind of opening up your doors and really listening to someone instead of just, hey, this is what you have to do to start a business. Go read this information and come back to me with, whatever questions that you have. I know individuals have done that in the past. And I think Ray has gone through that experience prior to coming to us, and it was a really big turnoff. So we really try just to have that open communication, the open door policy. I don't care where you are in your business. I don't care what you need at this point. let's sit down and really define it. And again, if I can't help you, I'm going to find the resource that's there for you, whether it's in my office or not. We're still growing too. I've been a business coach for a very long time, but I learn every day. I learn off of Ray, I learn off of our clients, and that just better motivates me to springboard off and to give that advice out to our clients in the future. Ray did tap on that. So just one more thing. I love how Ray is now we call it his give back tour. He does come up to our Boots to Business pretty much every month, every quarter. Ray is always there, and he's giving a mentor advice as someone that has transitioned out of the military, like these service members are doing, and saying, you know what, it's okay. You're giving a lot of information right now, but when you get out, if you can have a nugget of truth, reach out to one of these resource partners to really better hone in on that. Ray smashes that every time.
Awesome. And hey, thanks for giving the shout out. As Ray Milano did to the Boots to Business transition. That service just crossed 200,000 clients have gone through that
That's awesome.
transition assistance program, which is great. It's very structured, both introduction to entrepreneurship, but like Amy just mentioned, the mentors are what I call over dedicated, because I don't know how they find time in their already busy days to follow up, always make themselves available. We encourage them to take weekends off, but sometimes they don't even do that. But thank you for all the service there. Ray, you seem like besides the Worm Corporation, entrepreneurship has been in your blood. Do you find your colleagues maybe hesitant to get direct feedback from somebody like Amy, who's seen a lot of things, or do you think they go into it thinking that, oh, you're just going to get a cheerleader who's going to tell you everything's great, or you find people are open to sometimes, somebody in a previous session said that mentors often give you the answer you need, not the one you want?
Yeah, so I would have to say I run into both. I will tell you that as a veteran who spent 25 years in the Marine Corps, and Amy touched on it. When I first got out and started I call it, it's BOSS, Business Operations Success Systems. It's my first training consulting business, which is what I do, outside of junk and outside of real estate and the other brands. But when I first got out, I went to a resource. I don't even know what it was called at the time, but it was supposed to be there to help us get started. So much like when I went to Amy, I had in my mind, okay, I'm now retired. Right, I'm going to do this properly. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to go figure out, I spent 25 years in the Marine Corps. So I left the civilian community. I was 18 years old. And, now I'm 25 years older. And, how do I market? How do I advertise? How do I connect? How do I, what the heck is a chamber of commerce? And I went to a resource, and I had a meeting with them, and I sat down and I told them what I was doing and went over everything. And he gave me a stack of papers about, I don't know if you can see my hand, about yay thick, probably about 12 to 18 inches thick. I said, here's all the research material you need. Everything's in there you need to know about your business. Good luck. And that was my experience. So then I went into the mode where I don't trust. I went in the mode where I don't trust that people who say they're there for you are really there for you. And I became very, very leery of other people's advice. I realized that free advice was probably some of the most expensive advice you could ever take. And, so when I met Amy and I saw her at all these events, and at the first couple times I met her, I didn't even know what she did. And I found that out later on. And I'm like, well, if she's here, and I knew what she was talking about, I knew what she was saying, I knew what her message was. Amy works very hard, and I'm sure many of her counterparts across the nation do, but Amy works very hard at earning your trust. Because very quickly I realized after 25 years of service that not everyone out there that's willing to give me advice or willing to have me pay for their advice or have me pay for their service is really looking out for me. Right. And I came from an environment after 25 years in the Marine Corps, where when you asked a question, you got a straight answer. When you asked for advice, you got integrity. No one had a hidden agenda other than be successful and make the mission. Right. I mean, that's the environment I came from. And I very quickly realized that I was no longer in that environment. Amy helped me. Amy, she answered that mail. She's very direct as a coach and a mentor. She gives it to you with the bark on, like I like to say, but she gives it to you with such knowledge and expertise that you don't even realize she's being direct. She's just telling you what you need to know. And she's telling you, and she's giving it to you in plain English. And as such, there's no facade. There's no, so very quickly I realized, okay, this woman walks her talk, and her team are a great asset, right? And like I said, we've known each other for over 10 years, and we work together. We see each other all the time, obviously, but we work together on that same business, the business I have now. She called it my give back tour. My give back tour. I'm at that stage in my entrepreneur, life where I want to give back, and what better way to help, fellow veterans or folks that are getting out of the military transition who are thinking about starting a business. And Amy's take on entrepreneur, and I know the Boots to Business there's a standard, curriculum and everything else, but the reality that she breathes into, because Amy's an entrepreneur in and of herself, the reality that Amy brings to the classroom allows them to see more than just the what I call the mechanics, right? The check in the block training that military people are so used to getting. Amy brings personal experiences. She brings stories. She brings examples, corporate examples. She brings business history into her classroom. And you realize real fast that you're getting the real deal. And that's, so for me, it's a no-brainer. The VBOC is a resource that if you're especially if you're a veteran-owned business or you're starting one up, if you don't knock on their door and go meet your VBOC person in your area, then you're losing a tremendous asset. There's so much support there that it's amazing.
Yeah. And Joe, I'll hand it back over to you in 1 second. That reminded me of another question we got online, because hiring America's veterans is very important. So if I'm a veteran, I'm a son of a veteran, but I've not served. If I want to hire veterans, I want to be supportive, or I'm a veteran who's not ready for entrepreneurship, but I want to seek a job. I suspect, Amy, a lot of people come in, or maybe this is something that you just naturally encourage folks to hire veterans. There's incentives for that. There's ways to track people down. People may need a little bit of coaching on how to be a manager of a business of great employees, which again, we want to encourage hiring veterans. Any words of wisdom for folks in the audience that also we want to make sure, hiring veterans and those access points, and that's something you and your VBOC colleagues can give them advice on how to access that talent pool and cultivate that. Any notes on that?
Yes, and thank you. I had to compose myself after Ray's speech there. I got a little teary on that one. Wasn't expecting that. So yeah, so any walk of life for veterans and their families, and pinpointing back on Ray real quick, we do have that trusted value. That's one of the biggest things, because veterans need that trust and military families need it. So when they're transitioning out, trust is like the first thing they're looking for. If not, they're going to go hide and scramble, and then you can't find them, right? So that's always our first foot forward. But even with jobs, they're coming to us because, hey, yeah, you have a son, you have a daughter in you, even though we're in the entrepreneurial round, again, we have the resources available to us and at our access point, where if you're coming in just to kind of talk to someone, again, I'm not going to turn you away. My office is not going to turn you away. Come in, you're a veteran. We're still going to talk to you about the resources that are out there, whether it's at the military bases that you're on, whether it's going through a VA or any type of other outsourced outside resource. We're going to connect the dots. So, and it's not just here's a phone number and go call them. I actually sit in the office and email the individuals, connecting the two together, because the trust has to work both ways. In our center, that's exactly what we do. So if you need a referral out to someone, or if you're looking for something that maybe we just can't capitalize on, that doesn't mean I'm not going to make that first step and make sure that that connection happens. And then I go a little bit above and beyond, because then in about a week, if I don't hear from them, I'm also emailing them to say, hey, listen, did you get that veteran a call back? Because they're waiting, and we don't let our veterans wait. So, that's one of our biggest pushes too. We don't let our veterans kind of sit around and wait for an answer. That could be something very quick. So that's kind of what we do.
Well, I'm keeping abreast of the time, and I want to make sure that we don't keep you all on too long. But I do want to go ahead and ask you kind of the same question that we've been asking along the way for somebody who may be just starting out. Amy, from your perspective, and Ray, from your perspective, what's one piece of advice that you would go ahead and give somebody who's just starting out to say, hey, listen, because we kind of had, there was a question in the chat that alluded to this. At the end of the day, the opportunity to go ahead and start a business, Ray, as you know, and Amy, there's so many rewards that come from that. What kind of piece of advice would you give to somebody who's just starting out, coming out of the military, and really wants to go ahead and kind of get the ball rolling?
Who would you like to
First,
answer
Amy?
first? Okay.
You go ahead.
Either one, both of you.
Go ahead.
Okay. So my piece of nuggets or what I would suggest, number one, don't be fear of the failure, right? Don't fear what you don't know. You know, our opportunities and our options are, we're going to take that huge elephant in the room as you're looking to start a business or whatever, next phase of business, whatever it is. And what we're going to do is focus in on one bite of the elephant at a time. So it is possible. There is help out here for you. And again, it's not just one resource. It's all of us combining together because it does take a village to raise an entrepreneur. The other piece I like to use is network equals your net worth. It's all about who you know and how you're connecting with individuals. You know, it's a human connection. SBA has a ton of resources. Your network of veteran and military has a ton of resources. Keep those close to the belt and utilize what you have, and don't be fearful of that.
Amy, that's great advice. And one of the things that Amber and I like to do when we're teaching entrepreneurship is talk about it in terms of validated learning experiences. If you're not building a business, Ray, you saw this, I'm sure, with your worm business. At the end of the day, you're going to learn whether or not, you know, where to keep them and temperatures and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes you're going to be successful and sometimes not, but you're going to learn a validated learning experience. So we like to turn it from failure into validated learning experiences. Ray, what's your piece of advice?
Well, my piece of advice is same. I give it all the time. It's usually very lengthy though. I take about 20 minutes to give this advice, so I'll try to wrap it up in about 2 seconds. It comes down to 2 words: motivation and inspiration. Listen, starting your own business is challenging. You don't have to do it alone, like I've done so many times. There's people out there in today's age. There's people out there who walk their talk, who can really truly help you, right? But what I've always said, it comes down to motivation and inspiration. Right. And being in the military, we toss the word around motivation, right? Which, everybody gets all excited. They get pumped up. You know, motivation is it's emotion and the whole nine. I see it as 2 different words: motive and ation. In other words, what's your motive for action? As an entrepreneur starting a business, every single morning, you're going to have to remind yourself, what is your motive for action? Why do you get up in the morning and go take the action? Why did you start a business? What is your legacy? What is your goal with your business? What are you trying to accomplish? Because 99.9% of us are doing something more than just, you know, providing a paycheck, right, to ourselves. We don't go into business for ourselves because we just want to have a job and work for ourselves. 99.9 of us we have a vision, we have a goal, we have something that we want to do with our business. We want to serve, we want to give back, or we want to have a legacy, right? We want to leave our family with a legacy, whatever the case might be, provide a certain amount of freedom. So I tell entrepreneurs all the time, remember every single morning, because the world is going to get tough as you're learning and as you're figuring it out and as you're running through your challenges. And the perfect plan, just like in the military, you know, a plan doesn't even survive initial contact, right? As soon as you step off, the plan has changed. Every single plan you put together is going to have loopholes. You're going to figure some things out. You're going to learn from them, and then you're going to have to go back over it, and you're going to start it and do it again and do it again and do it again, right? That can get tiresome. And that can get stressful. And the reason a lot of small businesses go out of business is because, you know, through that process, people quit, people give up, they get overwhelmed. So I tell them first, remember your motive for action. What is your motivation? Your motive for action. And then inspiration is all about being in spirit, right? It's 2 words. You know, for me, it's in spirit. In other words, when you take those actions, what spirit do you do it in? Right? If you do it in the spirit of growth and expansion and service, right? Whether that be service to your family, service to community, service to customers, service to an industry, whatever. If you do it in that spirit, then the learning is easier. And you'll take your punches and you'll take your tough days and you'll see them for what they are. Right? But if you enter in the spirit of stress, worry, doubt, fear, right? If you enter into the small business realm and entrepreneurship from that perspective, right, then it's going to be a long haul for you. And you're going to end up with an ulcer. You're going to end up with health issues. You're going to end up with family. You're going to end up with all kinds of things going wrong. So remember your motivation. What's your motive for action? And in what spirit? What's your inspiration? Right? In what spirit do you conduct your business in? If you balance those 2, you're off to the races. The rest of it you can learn. The rest of it you'll pick up. The rest of it you'll get advice from someone like Amy and her team. You'll get help where you'll need it. You'll find the resources. They're there. Right. But if you lose those 2 things, that's usually when overwhelm and worry, doubt, and fear set in, and that's when we get in trouble.
Wow, Ray, that's super powerful. I got to tell you, I'm going to extrapolate that, not just for this, but the entire day for the SBA. Inspiring and motivational. Jack, thank you for all of the work that you and all of the SBA team did. Ray, you are an inspiration, the chaos coach, and just all of the work that you've done. Thank you for your service and all that you've done. Amy, man, I think I speak for everybody on the National Entrepreneurship Week team for all of the amazing work that you do to help our veterans. You know, Ray, you kind of said this. One of the opportunities and one of the reasons why I like to talk about entrepreneurship is how it has the opportunity to create intergenerational wealth, you know, and the opportunity to go ahead and really change families and lives, regardless of where you're from. The ability to start a business and really change the outcome of how your family goes ahead and the legacy that you're able to leave. So not only is it a legacy of service to the country for all of the folks who are willing to go ahead and support and be a part of the military, but also the opportunity to go ahead and then build a viable ongoing business concern to support their families and create the opportunities. Thank you guys both so much. Amber, I want to go ahead and throw it over to you and also to Jack. What an inspirational day. What an inspirational week. Thank you, Amy, again, and Ray Milano as well, and the rest of the SBA team. Wow, we have had a chock full of comments and conversations today. It's just been super inspirational. Jack, Amber, any thoughts?
Jack, I'll let you take this and then I'll drive us home.
Yeah, sounds great. We're SBA is both proud to serve entrepreneurs, but honestly humbled by the opportunity to work with so many great mentors and clients out there. So we try to do our best to tell their stories, work on our other programs with the banks and the procurement organizations. But you can call me a fanboy of all our mentors out there, because I have to live through Amy because she gets to hang around with Ray and other entrepreneurs, just knowing, you know, we play a role in all the great work they do. Joe and Amber, so besides this series and everything you've done this week, for folks that maybe stopped into a local workshop as part of National Entrepreneurship Week at a library or community college, thank you all for continuing to wave that flag and keep this celebratory week alive. Over the years, we're proud to be your partners as well. It's a sort of historic time, both with the number of business startups, causes like National Entrepreneurship Week. We're in the midst of Black History Month. We're coming into Women's History Month as well. Just so many great opportunities to celebrate current business owners, entrepreneurs, and the diversity and the innovation that drives America. So proud to be partners here. Amber, back to you.
Yeah, I thank you. I mean, this is always such an inspirational week for me on the education side of entrepreneurship. And I never feel more drive than I do after this week. So now I feel like I can solve all the world's problems through this entrepreneurial process. So thank you to everyone. Thank you to everyone who tuned into this on the resource compass and the pickup afterwards. I mean, we just have incredible network of resources available, and it's due in large part to the entrepreneurs, the resource providers, and Jack, the agencies at the federal level that come to the table every year. And thank you to my co-chair, Joe. I mean, you are a light and bring so much enthusiasm to entrepreneurship. So that's a wrap on National Entrepreneurship Week 2024.